Okay, 1 minute.
But they asked for you.
No, it's politics.
They asked for the team leader, not me.
Well, Rick was that half
Out there? Go get you one.
Yeah. Got 1 minute.
1 minute.
We need to get that corrected. That thing's fast.
That is, I just look at the,
Oh, that's what you do, yeah.
do you have anything on the consent?
Well done. Yeah, no,
I feel a silence.
I was good.
Maybe.
I'll let Joe Dan get his copy.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, let's not leave him out.
I thought the same thing.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think that's,
It's interesting. Very interesting time.
Pastor text something. Okay, I'll impromptu.
You never thought of that.
All right, good evening, everybody.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Our pastor is not here today, so I'll lead us in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thanks for giving us the opportunity to get together. Thanks that the island was largely spared by Hurricane Florence. Not what we expected the day before, but thank you for your grace. We pray, though, for those who were more impacted, those in the northern part of the county, Pender, Duplin. Lord, we pray that they get back on their feet, and we pray those of us with the time, talent, and treasure, as so many have done and have committed to do, will volunteer to help get our fellow North Carolinians back online. In your name, we pray. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you all for coming, and thanks to those who are watching live stream right now. We've had a chance to look at the agenda. Council, I make a motion to adopt the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Comments on the consent agenda before a motion?
Nope.
Motion to pass the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we struck the first two items of the special presentations, and we'll move to
But-
Brenda on it.
Before you do that, can I just specifically say something?
Sure.
I'd like to just take a minute and for the residents, everyone who's watching, who's listening, and truly thank our town staff, the personnel that stayed and weathered throughout the storm. You guys did an amazing job. I know you maybe not hear it enough, so high fives and hugs to you guys. We really appreciate what you do, and thank you.
Okay, Brenda, we get the salty dog or the surf dog experience special event. Are you presenting that?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, yeah.
Evening.
Welcome.
With Ocean Events LLC. Just give you a quick profile. It's like I spent 2.5 decades in the corporate world with like Fox, CBS, and Westwood One. It was all with like Redskins, Ravens football, Orioles baseball. Last 7 years, I've sunk all of my expertise into the ocean. So I've been doing 2 pro surfing championships and dealing with a lot of pro surfers and the World Surf League and building out surf events. Well, I had a client that came to me and said that she wanted to do a surf dog experience, right? So it's like I put together a shell. I reached out to the surf community in Virginia Beach, and some people here in North and at Carolina Beach, specifically Ocean Cure. So I talked to Kevin Murphy, and we think it's a good idea, and we really want to do something with. Pro surfers are putting their dogs in the water anyway, and a lot of just recreational surfers are doing that. And what I want to be able to do with your town is actually build a sponsorship an event that's literally sponsored by like Pacifico Beer, and there's a wine company that's very interested. And working with Brenda, we built a beer garden, and with 20 tents, and we're looking at doing it from like 12 noon to 7 p.m. And once again, we have a 501c3, which would be Ocean Cure, and they're a good partner because it's like, they would actually supply the boards if somebody wanted to put their dog in the water, that had never surfed before, or they've never surfed before. So, we're working with like safety jackets, and, we'll make it safe. And it's like, and because what I've done, with pro surfing is I've been involved in a lot of mitigation when it comes to like the city of Virginia Beach granting me, approvals and stuff on events. It all comes down to making sure that everything's safe. So, and we were looking at scheduling it for like October 7th. Right now the water's a little polluted, but I've been there before where you go surfing and it's like the next day you don't feel so well,
Probably be today.
I walked out on the beach today, and it's like, and I thought it was going to be black, but it seems like the ocean's starting to clear itself up.
Question for you. If by October 7th you think that it may not be suitable, would you, because of the animals, would you want to push that back a week,
Yeah,
or-
no. What I'd like to be able to do at this point is go with like an April or May, so we're on the shoulders of your season, And I was just looking at the calendar, and it's like Saturday, April 27th would be perfect, or May 4th. Because I'm thinking that you guys would want us, like with the new event, a little farther out on the shoulders, as opposed to, maybe the weekend before Memorial Day. So, and April, it's usually good, and May too. So it's like, but I was thinking like the last week in April or the first week in May. But I know you guys are busy, and I know that you have a lot of events going on. So it's like it's a combination of talking to Ocean Cure and talking to, the town of Carolina Beach. So, but yeah, my sponsors, they're ready to go. I mean, they like this idea. Ocean Cure is ready to go. So, and then I know that I can probably get some corporate help from like the dog companies out there. But I know that just driving through and doing a site survey of your town, you have a lot of dog companies, that specialize in grooming and everything else.
Dog friendly.
Dog, yeah, you're very, very dog friendly.
So what's October 7th?
So, Jay, I think it's a great idea. I like the idea that you're probably thinking about waiting until the spring, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And I even know that Kevin had put out some posts, and a lot of people have been posting about exactly when the water will be good. I know I've been fighting with a couple of young guys that want to get in the water, keep telling them no. On the map that you've included in here, I would just ask that you work with town staff a little bit on that.
Mm-hmm.
Two issues. One, blocking off the entire commercial business district down front has been a little bit of a problem before when we've done that for a volleyball tournament and some others. And then I would just say, talk to Kevin and some of the local surfers, the mayor and others, that on where the best break is. I'm not sure it's always been right there. A lot of times they do their events in a couple of different locations that seem to have a better break.
Well, I'm looking at for maybe something really soft. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
and whatever the design is, I'm just the 4 blocks right there along the boardwalk district, blocking all that off with. That's one of the most populated areas of the beach. So we're just going to have to work with you on location, and I would ask Brenda to kind of work that a little bit.
so the way that it's laid out right now, I'm taking your entire stretch.
Just of the central business district, pretty much from the Marriott all the way over to the front of the Hampton. That's a big section of it. So
Yeah.
not
I
opposed
walked
to it.
that
I'm just
today.
saying we need to kind of look through that and work on it, and then work with staff and talk to us about the beer garden. I mean, all those things make sense. We love new ideas and creative and pet friendly. We'd like to be more pet friendly. So,
You know, if I can interject, I mean, one thing that I've always done is it's never been like onesies and twosies. It's always been like inaugural, and then you build on for the next year. Because I mean, it's like, you know, I'm already thinking, 2020, like with events like this, because you get the sponsors involved, and it's like you work out the logistics with the city, and we try to make it, perfect.
This may be the perfect spot for it. We have several other events that do take that space. I know the Chamber has a couple we've done in the past. I'm just saying as a heads up, I'd want to hear from Brenda and staff to make sure that we're comfortable with that as a community. But I think everyone would embrace it with open arms as far as the concept.
That's awesome.
Just coincide with the tides. You're gonna have that
Yeah,
much stuff.
Well,
and what's to
Is this a
Steve's
one-
point.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's just a one-day event?
Yes.
Like 10 to 2? I guess in my mind, this is an area, anyway.
I'd love to have a rain date, but I'm thinking that the way that you guys, are busy, that it's like let's just say that, we've locked in like April 27th. I mean, it's like April 28th, there's probably something going on.
Well, that probably goes back to checking the calendar with Brenda, see what the white space is, as an alternate. So
Okay.
Don't, in other words, don't dismiss it outright.
Yeah, I bet the surfer right there.
Let's not take the sail out of the
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's superimposed, but if you look at 10 by 10 tent on there, it's about a quarter the size of Marriott. So that's not exactly how it would look. And life rolls on, and the fact that we have 20 tents in that smaller area, whether it was right in front of the stage or Harper Ave, when Jake first came to me with this idea, I was like, oh, it's a great idea, but we would look at low tides, that we could go out to the sandbar, we would look at volunteers, all that stuff to make sure that it's safe, not to mention volunteers, dog waste, and everything else, to make sure that the town has to do minimally possible to make sure this is a successful event. But we just started talking about this, and I kind of said, hey, we got
Sure.
hurricane, so we're going to cancel that first meeting, and then water's not looking good for coming up, so we need to postpone it to the spring. Town's got too much to deal with right now, but I thought it was a good idea to get in front of council.
Most definitely.
And then make sure that council and the town knows exactly what the town needs to make sure it's a perfect event.
And as you know, with the hurricane and then the Beach for Nourishment, the brakes are going to change. They already have now, so. But that'll all come out in the wash.
I
Jay.
guess the only question I have in my mind, and I would encourage Brenda, I mean, we've set I'm just going to say a pet policy, on the boardwalk in different areas. So do we drop that for a day, or I'm going to let you think through all that because that's your job, but.
So if it's in the off-season, that's not an issue. If it's in the off-season, it will not be an issue.
Well, like I was just looking at 2019, and it just seemed like April 27th would be perfect, or May 4th. I mean,
Well, let's look at when Easter weekend is and things like that when you set a date.
And that's the weekend after Easter, so pretty good.
Cool. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it.
Yeah.
So this will
awesome.
come back is what you're saying.
Thanks, Jay. And Michael,
Alex,
before
take my dog
before we proceed, you want us to make a motion with the date to be determined?
That would be preferable,
Okay,
yes, please.
so I'll do that then. Motion to approve the Surf Dog experience at a date to be determined. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Amen.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks, Scott.
presentation.
All right.
Okay. Ken, here to present on the, is St. Paul's Food Truck Rodeo, is it?
See.
I don't, my eyes. Okay, Brenda.
I have a slide up there, if you would, please, Ed, thank you. The St. Paul's, they're having a fundraiser, and they're having a fundraiser for the St. Paul's New Community Life Center, and it's all going to be on their property, and it was all good to go, and then they decided they wanted to block the street for the day, and they wanted to block 3rd Street from Harper to Lumberton. Is that Lumberton? Yeah, Lumberton. And there's only a few houses there, and I informed them that they would have to let those houses know and get their okay. They have assured me that they would talk to those people, and there's only one house that really cannot get out during that time, and they have assured me that they would let them get out. They would be able to get out at that time. So the food truck rally and silent auction is between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m., and there'll be music from 11:30 to 3:30 p.m. The tent there, the 6x40 tent, is where they were going to have their band and their music and their auctions and everything, I think. And I think they had told me that they got quite a few nice, expensive items to auction off. So basically, they need approval from the council to block off that street for that time and that
Now,
day.
would they have, the only problem I see is, we'll have to think about the block street, but as long as they have their food truck on their property.
No, the food trucks would kind of
They want it in
be,
the
they
street.
want them to park it there in the street, and that's the reason they want to block it off.
Yeah, that's
Events can have food
least
trucks.
the problem.
Events can have, a special event can have food trucks at their event. There's nothing saying that they can't have, a lot of our special events have food trucks at them.
Sure, but on
And-
private property, not in the public.
No, they have it on our property also, down at the lake, in different places that we have events, they have on our property, food trucks. They take over, we're giving them permission to have that area as their event area for that day, and it is up to them to make sure that the vendors they use, yes, sir.
Yes.
Almost every event we have different food trucks
Brenda,
down at the lake and
The
everything.
only thing I really care about is that you personally speak to those property owners on that street.
You would like me to?
Well, somebody, I want to make sure they
Without
get spoken to.
church?
Official confirmation.
Okay.
And just make sure they're good with it and don't have any objections. They
I don't
can
have a
come and
problem
go,
with
and
that.
Other than that, I don't.
I'll speak to them personally, no problem.
Not that I don't trust somebody else didn't, but I'd like to know that we communicated with those citizens.
Yeah, there's really, like I said, there's only one. The other two, I think everybody has a,
Well, these two on the end can probably
yeah,
get on the
it's
other.
that middle one that would have a problem, might have a problem getting out, but they're assuring that they won't. But I will speak to those people for sure.
Brandon, what
Pers-
date is this for?
Pardon me?
What's the date?
Saturday, November the
It is, yes, September the 11th. September. Oh, they changed it.
well, I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
It says November.
I've got
September of next year.
November
That's what-
10th. I am so sorry.
We can't keep up with dates.
It's been a long.
Emotional 2 weeks.
Yes. It's Saturday, November 10th.
at 11.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion?
Put it in.
Go for it.
I make
Yes.
a motion to approve I make a motion to approve the special event for St. Paul's Food Truck Rodeo as described.
All in favor?
Aye.
My motion passes.
I believe that is the process we have in place to do food trucks, which is to have a special use permit for a one-time event until we
Yes.
come up with a more formal plan.
Yes, sir.
Right.
That is.
Okay. Thanks, Brenda.
Thanks.
Okay.
Brenda, you're next also.
You have another one.
I was just going
Yes.
We're off to Pleasure Island.
Yeah, no
right.
RT, I got that on the agenda, Michael.
Are we
Oh.
gonna have RT?
I didn't have that on my agenda. Yes, I see that.
Yeah, it's on
Okay.
the-
So
You
I'm
can
not
sit down just for a second.
sure.
Sorry about that.
Greg.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Evening, Greg.
I've got a slideshow in there somewhere. Boardwalk.
Yeah, that's it.
This request was made prior to Hurricane Florence, so it's got a little bit of changing going on with it, but overall it's still the same basic functions. What we're looking at is we had an ad in Encore a couple weeks back about you know, the summer never ends at Carolina Beach, and so this was one of the things we had was the world premiere of the Rack Pack and also Boardwalk Blast Special Edition scheduled for this Saturday. And since Hurricane Florence, these are taking on a little bit, you know, different meaning right now. The Rack Pack was postponed, and the Boardwalk Blast is still hopefully happening this Saturday. And we've put some, we're limited it to the Carolina Beach area. We put it out to the businesses and all that. But the funding request basically will reflect, it has not changed from what we had before. Go to the next slide. Basically, the CBFD personnel, which was approved back on 2/13, just did not get put in for the appropriation, so we just want to bring that back forward. Y'all approved that on the 13th. I'll explain more in the further slides. The world premiere of the Rack Pack, again, was scheduled for 2 weeks ago. Got postponed. We're looking for another date. We may return this, or may not spend this money and return this money to you is if we put it as part of the regular movie programs for next year. We'd like to go and do maybe something this fall, because I think it's pretty important to have, you know, it's pretty cool to have a world premiere of a movie that's actually filmed here. The Boardwalk Blast coming up this Saturday. It was an $875 difference on the fireworks, and then we discussed what we're going to do is let's go ahead and have a band and sound and everything. That's the 1850 of it. And then the minimal advertising, we've already done one ad, and we had another ad that we would like to do, which would probably be for the movie now at this point. We decided not to, we pulled that on the Encore for this week because we want to limit the celebration on Saturday for our residents versus Wilmington. Go to the next slide. The Carolina Beach Fire Department personnel, this was basically it's $25 per person per night to take care of overtime and get the volunteer firemen out there. It's 80 nights, 80 shifts divided by 15 shows, so it's roughly over five volunteer firemen we're paying for per show. This is a deal we made with them. Again, we only have one more show left now, so again, we're just asking for that to be reinstated as an expense.
Yeah, it was already approved.
It was already approved.
Check was
It just did not.
written for less
The
than it
request
should've
went in for our original request versus the one that was approved.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of a carryover. And we'll go to the next slide. World premiere Rack Pack. Again, we're just paying for the vendor movie, the vendor itself, and then an advertising for a total of $950 for a date. I talked to David Schiffer today. He said he'd like to find a date, but he'd be okay to roll it into next summer's movie program too. I'd like to maybe go and give a bonus for our residents while the weather's still really nice, and maybe try to get it in the next, 2-3 weeks or so. Go to the next slide. This is the one that's coming up on Saturday. This was originally scheduled already. It's the eco-friendly fireworks display that we did. But we're going to do it during the regular season. The fire department will kind of want to do more as a special show to show the different fireworks. And we just said, okay, well, let's go and give all our residents and whatever visitors might have here, let's go and put a band in there also. We actually offered the band slot to the two bands that got rained out this year. And we have Spank coming down, which is an excellent band, rock and soul band out of the Raleigh and Fayetteville area. And then again, we had one ad that ran for this, or previously ran for the extension of the summers at $150. So that total was $28.75. And then one
So
more.
Greg, at this point, we've talked about doing this event, if this is funded this weekend, having those special fireworks so we can kind of see if they have the same oomph that we get from our regular fireworks show.
Correct.
They don't have as much
They have-
embers, or a
They
little
have
different.
zero hot fallout, so we can't burn people with them, and then minimal cleanup.
Okay, so one of the things that we were talking about is in the future what the difference in the price cost. So you'll have some estimates down the road for that.
Down the road, yes.
But this weekend, the idea was to be able to get the island residents together, playing on what some of Joe Dan suggested, getting everyone out just to see our neighbors and say thank you and congratulations and recognize town staff.
Yeah, we put a
Have an
press release
opportunity.
out today. That should be in the Gazette tomorrow on the headlines, which basically is neighbors helping neighbors. It's kind of our program.
So really
Back to
key
the town.
on getting the Carolina Beach residents down, take a look at the fireworks, hear some music, and say thank you to our town staff.
Yep.
Question: Who's
Get right back to normal.
who's emceeing that?
You are.
It'd be awesome if we had
I'm pretty
a
much
random
heard
town
as you.
employee who's super happy and just to be out there. Those are the people we want to say thank you to.
Okay. I'm gonna let you guys take care of the MC and the things, but we're working the details out. We had it all worked out, and then Florence kind of got in the way. And I'll take this opportunity to thank all of you guys for what y'all did, and town staff.
Greg, you
The
mentioned
town was
something
great.
that there may be a challenge getting the fireworks here due
Right-
to the road conditions.
right
If-
now, the
if that's the
fireworks-
case, you got an idea for another?
We do not. We still want to do it. The fireworks, like I said, it's a $4,000 show. The difference is $850 is all we're asking for. If they can't get here, we'll pick out another date. But we already had the band coming. We already think it's a great opportunity to get the town out, dancing a little bit, and just having a good time.
Regardless of whether.
Regardless.
Yep, got it. Okay.
Have you been in contact with them to find out if it is feasible for them to get here?
They actually, I talked to them about 2 hours ago. Right now, the roads in Conway are not passable. The river's supposed to crest tomorrow, and he said he'll let me know as late as Saturday morning if he can get here.
Okay.
And so right now he's got the staff. He's ready to go. The product's there. We can get a shooter out of Wake Forest, but this special product had to be ordered, and it's sitting in Conway. And,
You'll have the volunteers. Or
We got the volunteers all worked out.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Greg, when are you gonna know if we're gonna have the fireworks or not? 'Cause that's pretty.
It'll probably be Saturday morning. I mean, unless they call me Friday and say, it's really up to them right now. It's one of those things that's out of my hands. I wish I could tell you.
It's out of their hands too.
What do you mean,
their
they
hands
can't
too.
deliver them, or they can't get here, or?
They're actually sitting in Conway right now. They had to order them, and they got delivered there prior to the hurricane. And so it's going to all work out. We'll have them. But yeah, we've got the volunteers already lined up.
Okay. Any other questions? With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Pleasure Island Chamber of Commerce request for additional funding from the ROT. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Now, yes, ma'am. Special events for September and October.
And let me say, we have all been working on a lot of faith lately. Okay. Good evening. Once again, Mayor Pro Tem, Council.
Hello.
I have kept the September, what I was going to brief in September. It has changed dramatically. So I've just decided to brief it and let you know what has happened. Turn the Tide Fest, of course, they are going to reschedule. They have not given me a rescheduled date yet. The Dragon Boat Regatta, they have rescheduled. They want to do it May 3rd and 4th of 2019. The Rib Fest, they are going to reschedule. And I'm not sure when they will reschedule yet, but they have decided that it's better for them to reschedule for next year also. The CB Ocean Rescue Beach Challenge, Chief, I don't know. Are you going to reschedule that, or that was just a one-time thing and it didn't happen? Okay. And I apologize for that. I meant to call Chad, and I lost my mind thought on that one. Of course, we don't have any more, the Boardwalk Blast, which we were just briefed on. There are no more farmers markets for the year, and there are no movies at the lake for the year. So that is all there is for that. I will tell you, May of 2019, every weekend may be very full because everybody's trying to reschedule for that time frame.
Brenda, are you saying there's not a farmer's market this Saturday?
No, ma'am, there is not.
Okay.
October approved events, Surf Fishing Challenge. They're still going to have their challenge, is what I understand. And that's going to be Friday the 19th, and it starts at 9 a.m. registration. and then till Sunday the 21st, and it ends at 5 o'clock, and it's at the Fisherman's Lot, which is the Sea Witch Lot. Seafood Blues and Jazz, as far as I know. We are not sure about Seafood Blues and Jazz, again, because of the hurricane. I think we are ready to put it on, but they're not sure about Fort Fisher. Greg was waiting to hear from Fort Fisher. They were going to make a determination. He informed me today that they have canceled all weddings and all events out there, so he was waiting for a decision from them. So no decision yet. No decision yet. But if we do have it, it's going to be Saturday the 13th from 11 to 10 and Sunday the 14th from 11 to 6. CB Fire Department's barbecue is, I'm still thinking it's going to happen in October. Yeah. All right. Rain or shine, Saturday the 27th from 11 a.m. till sellout. And I understand that goes pretty quick, so you better get there early.
Yeah, I got there at 3 o'clock one time. It was gone.
Yeah.
It was sad.
And that's going to be at the fire department.
Can you roll back, because our sheet is not like your sheet. So the fire department barbecue's the 27th.
27th from 11 till sellout.
Okay, so I'm getting a text from Mr. Paul that says they are having farmer's market this Saturday.
Yeah, the last one is this
Oh.
Saturday.
Because Eric told me they were not.
I know, I thought I saw it somewhere. That's why I was asking.
Okay, well, then I apologize. There will be a farmer's market this Saturday, normal time.
I'm
All
sure
right.
he's listening.
Yeah. All right. That's
Yes,
great.
sir.
I wanted to make one this year. And then, of course, I will wish you happy Halloween next month. Okay. Coffee with a Cop. Bagel Meister, that was, again, canceled due to our wonderful hurricane. But Tuesday, December 18th, and I understand they're all going to be at the Bagel Meister now. And the next one will be Tuesday, December the 18th from 8 to 9:30. And I'm just keeping this slide up to remind everybody when the next one will be and to be there. All right. Are there any questions? That kind of wraps it up here.
Councilman?
Nope.
Thanks, Brenda.
Brenda.
You're welcome. I think I got all my notes. Yeah. All right.
Okay, I think we turn our attention to the town manager for an update, Michael?
Mayor, Council, I had planned on giving this presentation back at our regular meeting that was postponed. So some of the information is once again changing due to the hurricane. One of the projects that I wanted to update you on is a lake dredging project. Initially, we were supposed to have bids published for that project on September the 17th. Like many other folks in the Wilmington area, SEPI Engineering suffered some damage to their facility and their servers during the hurricane, and were not able to publish that. At the current time, we're hoping for a republished date to be October the 8th. So that would be when that would go out for bid. We have reached out since the hurricane to the U.S. Coast Guard to find out what the status of our temporary easement or access back to our property is. I've been playing phone tag for the last several days and haven't received a response on that yet, but we're still working under the premise that they should be able to get that to us in the same time frame as what we had spoken of before, so that we could have a project on the street and prepped by December. The marina project also has taken somewhat of a hit, about 3 weeks worth with the storm. The pile driving should take place October the 1st through the 5th. The dredging activities should take place October the 8th through the 19th. Building the platforms, meaning the staircases and things like that, will be October the 22nd through November the 2nd. installing the docks November the 5th through the 14th, and completion of the project by November 30th. One other interesting fact, we did see some damage associated to the storm to the south and east side of the marina. We are currently in the process of finding a structural engineer that we've used in the past that evaluates those types of things to determine how extensive the damage is and what things have to take place. If you remember, the project in itself was going to be a project that lasted multiple years, and the next phase of that was going to be the southern section of the marina, which is where the winter boats are. We did see a lot of erosion in that area and some uplift of the existing deck, so that's why we're a little bit cautious on the activities there and looking into that. So that may change how we move forward in the future, depending on what we find from the damage assessment.
Michael, question for you.
Yes.
To my understanding, the marina project, in order to save some cost, we decided to not use contractors and use some of our town staff.
Yes, I did.
The only question I have about that is them not being insured versus if there happens to be any sort of an issue with that dock.
And that is an issue with everything that we build. Yes, sir.
All right.
All of our beach accesses and anything that we build on our own is a insurance risk. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The other project was the beach nourishment project. Due to the storm, they did postpone, and they have not reset the bid opening date for the beach nourishment project. Currently, the general sense that we get is because of the storm, we definitely had some erosion of the beach. Many of you have been out there on multiple trips to see that. We have some places where we have 10 to 12 foot escarpments. We have areas where it's actually taken in part of the dunes. So there's been a lot of loss of sand. Because of that, the Corps went out and did a general survey, visual survey, on the 20th of September, and they're doing LiDAR surveys over the next couple of weeks. They're hopeful that they'll be able to get enough information to add on to our existing contract for beach nourishment the sand that we would need to replenish the beach because of the storm. That they won't know that until probably the end of the first week of October. They will just do an amendment, so we won't have to start the whole process over again for bidding. It'll probably take another 14 days to do the bidding. We're hopeful that they will be able to set a bid opening date before the end of October. Now, the construction window on our beach nourishment project is from November 15th to March 31st. Each year we get better and better at getting ourselves prepared for these, but the challenge is getting the contractor to come in at the right time and make sure that everything is done in the right time frame. So we won't know until we go out for bid and get the bid results. One, the cost, two, the amount of sand that'll be renourished associated to the storm. Right now there's 3 phases not associated to the storm. That was just going to be our standard beach nourishment. The southern phase is Alabama to North Carolina. The central phase was from Carolina Sands to Pelican Lane. And then the northern section was from Sailfish to the Hatteras Ramp. So virtually all of our beach will be renourished with this cycle. And that phase was planned for 647,000 cubic yards of material. Like I said, there could be extensive amounts added on to that. One of the things that the Corps will do once they determine the amount of sand that was lost because of the storm, they will start working with Congress to get special solicitation for funding for that aspect of the project. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I did talk to the Corps today, and they believe they're on track to try and meet those goals. at the present time. Those are the 3 projects I wanted to update.
Now, you said that the end of the window for re-nourishment was March 31st? Wouldn't it
March
be April
31st.
30th?
Yes, March 31st.
March 31st.
Yes.
But they have in
They-
the past gone further than that.
In the past, they do have a window where they can go a month usually in extension.
April.
We've done that, I think, once or twice.
Yeah, they actually went into May a couple of times, but that's not their typical way of doing it.
No, it's not.
So, Michael, a number of us met with the Corps of Engineers a couple of different times and took that tour. The existing plan in place that was already sent out for bid is 100% funded. The funding's already been secured between the federal, the state, and the ROT dollars. So what we were talking about was the potential for additional costs for additional sand based on the damage done by the storm. And when we met with Representative Rouser, and I believe the mayor had confirmation of that today out of Burr's office, they were talking somewhere around $1.4 billion to go to the state. That had nothing to do with sand. It wouldn't be available for sand. But the Corps and Rouser were both aware, and we're going to be working on additional funds. This is the earliest we've ever had a bid package ready to go and out and have numbers back in the number of cycles I've seen. This is the earliest we've been. So we're in pretty good shape. What concerned us and we need to keep an eye on was that Representative Rouser said they're going to leave session here in a week or so and won't be back until November, at which point that's when they would be able to find additional dollars for sand, which would primarily come from the federal government under the hurricane relief that they're going to provide. So it wouldn't be out of the state. It wouldn't be out of the ROT.
Right.
We need to be prepared to look at those alternative funding sources because we're only going to get one event.
And currently, that one event for the storm damage would be 100% funded through the federal government if it came through a FEMA package like that. I did have a conversation or an email conversation with the state today, and they are looking to try and hedge their bet, so to speak, and have a plan in place in case those dollars don't become forthcoming from the federal government as fast as we may need them for beach
So
nourishment.
they could potentially bridge that funding for a
That's
period of time.
That's the intent. They were asking for the same level of information, like quantities of sand and what the dollar figures would be, which won't be available until the first week of October. But yes, there's already been some conversations on some alternatives for that to bridge that gap.
All right, because as we all have learned, the most expensive part of the whole program that's done every 3 years is the mobilization. The sand costs money, but mobilizing. So we're going to get one chance to mobilize with Curie Beach and get our projects done at the same time.
That's right.
So we just need to keep an eye on that.
Yes, sir.
Please, thanks.
And we'll need to work with, as was pointed out today to Steve's point, Mayor Blair has the same issue with lost sand. So he's going to be, it's going to end up being at Curie Beach, Carolina Beach, Wrightsville, for not just what we had in the template, but that which was taken by the storm. Because
Right.
they got 4 years before they. Michael, to the lake dredging project, couple of assumptions that I think we're under, and that is Coast Guard's going to give us an easement in a reasonable amount of time. That's, right now, that's strictly presumption. The second one is, even when they do at this point in time, we probably can assume a shortened time to dredge. If we're looking at a back end to be activities in the lake, beer, beach, bacon, am I missing something there? You know, that as an April event, and having demobilization done and restoration of any damage due to that, or, you know, lost sand and so on. Do we still intend to dredge to completion? In other words, gather the last 50,000 cubic yards, or to a date, basically an index?
That's sort of up in the air for council to determine. Right now, the way that we have the bid package set up, it is to take into account up to the entire 50,000 cubic yards of material. Now, that means that we could do anything short of that. So because of Hurricane Florence and the other things that are going on, council could come back with a bid package and say, this is the lowest responsible bidder, but we'd like to negotiate a shorter time length so it doesn't interfere with our events. And a shorter time length may mean less material being removed. So that would be sort of the next conversation once we get back bids for the
Okay.
services.
So in other words, something that might be a floating number, or one that we establish in advance. We're not going to get 50, but we might get 25.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions?
Not at the
Thanks,
moment.
Michael.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, let's open it up for public comment. I have one individual who signed up. It relates to the fence. Rich, I don't know if I read this right. Yes, sir. Do you want to talk to that now, or do you want to wait till we go to public hearing on the island fence topic? Either way, whatever works for you. Sure.
Richard Soselsky, 941 Carolina Sands Drive. Mayor, Council, thank you. I had two comments on two very different areas. One's on the fence, and the other's some insights and comments about our local water quality right now. First, on the fence, I just wanted to reiterate some of the points that some of the residents, citizens of Carolina Beach made at the last public hearing on the fence, and that I just want to please encourage you all to be mindful of the long term, of the decades-long impact that this decision will make. I think more residents have not been involved with this issue because it's been an out of sight, out of mind thing, much like there weren't more residents involved in the location of the fence 2 or 3 years ago because there weren't a lot of residents that backed right up to where the path is. So more people have gotten involved because now there's homes on Croker Lane, Spot Lane, and so forth in areas south of Carolina Sands. But once people start riding on this incredible path, and I got to say, Steve, I know you toured it, and I got to say, I've been back there too. Not sure if we're supposed to yet, but it's an incredible, path. It makes me want to get a different bike. Makes me want to get a faster bike because some of those curbs are awesome on there. But I think once people start riding it and walking it, the decision is going to be felt not just by people that are looking at the fence. And we're not going to, where we live, we have 300 feet of woods between us and the fence. So we're not going to be looking at it, but we're close to it. But I think all the residents, all the visitors, the impact of what type of fence we're going to have is it's going to become a lot more a bigger issue. And it's an issue that will be with us for decades. And the comment on water quality, I have a business that here in Carolina Beach that's based at the marina, and the impression that the public has of the water quality has a lot to do with the success of our business. And I just wanted to share with you our experience after Hurricane Floyd. A similar volume of water came down the river. Back then, it was a different division of Diener. Now it's within Marine Fisheries. It's recreational water program. It's part of the same division as Shellfish Sanitation now. So they're the ones that go out and do the water quality. They're the ones that do proclamations. They put out a proclamation just yesterday saying that everything's clean up in Currituck and Dare County. Everything else we don't know. They have not been able to get out in the field. And the Diener office, in part of it, is some facilities of Diener have been damaged, including in Wilmington. But they have not been able to go out and do sampling. When they did, they're saying, be careful of the water. Just a general cautionary statement is what they're saying now, without having done any testing. When they did after Floyd, though, what they came back with, and they went way above Wilmington for the water quality, is that it was as clean as it ever was. And the reason why, a lot of nasty things, nobody's going to debate that, are in the Cape Fear River and all the tributaries of Cape Fear River and in the sounds right now, but it was also diluted. It was also diluted that when you're looking at it parts per billion, parts per trillion, who knows what it is now, and they don't even know when they're going to get out and do the testing, but I just wanted to put that out there. So,
Well,
thank
sir,
you.
as a
Thanks.
precaution this morning in our workshop, we did ask the town manager to look at doing independent testing. And I don't know where he's at with that. We know that certain agencies do it, but we think it'd be very proactive for Carolina Beach to do our own testing.
And we have followed up on that, and as Rich said, the Diener offices were damaged, and so getting a direct response out of them seems to be challenging. But we will get the information on what kind of sampling they do, what kind of regular testing they do, so that we can go ahead and get those tests done, so that we'll have the information for you.
And there's no doubt, if anyone's seen the ocean the last couple of days,
Nasty.
it looks nasty, but it's just swamp water mainly. We're not looking at dirt. We're not looking at. I will say real quick that I've made different contacts with professors at UNCW that study this kind of thing. As far as hog waste goes, that's consumed by decomposers way before it gets to Lock and Dam number 1, which is where Wilmington gets its water supply from. So don't have to worry about hog waste here in Carolina Beach. But it is going to be helpful that we're at full moon tides right now, so we're getting a lot of flushing, so to speak. So, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, and to your point, today, going back through my notes, Representative Deb Butler commented on a post, sort of a hot wash on Hurricane Florence, that DEQ is trying to get to places as quick as they can. It's a concern for some of the state legislators, naturally, but
Sure, and they have a big job, and they're
oh yeah, they do.
they're pretty busy right now.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to come and talk? That is all we have that has signed up. Please.
How's everybody doing?
Good evening.
Good. My name is Amy Webster, owner of Pop Steiner. This is Laura Rourke, owner of The Dive. And we had some issues over the weekend with our food truck and being parked on private property. And so we just happened to come here tonight to see if anybody was talking about anything like that. And we're not here to like cause any trouble or stir up anything else, but in sitting in this meeting, we heard that people are allowed to park on private, public property, blocking people's houses. And, you know, we own businesses down here, and we contribute to this community, and we work hard. And right now, at this moment, both of our businesses are not, you know, functioning. And she just recently purchased the Dive in March. I've owned my business for 7 years, and we contribute to the community. We donate to the aquarium. I donate to the elementary school. We do all kinds of stuff, and it seems to be a big stink that we want to park my food truck in front of her restaurant in order for her to be able, in front of her bar, in order for her to be open, and for me to be able to have some money flow as well. We're not hurting any businesses, I'm pretty sure, by selling some hot dogs and burgers to a couple of people. And we have talked to whoever we need to talk to, and we've accepted our demise. The problem is they want me to park it back in the alleyway in the parking lot behind my restaurant, which is fine, but it's not doing anything for us. I'm actually going in a hole further trying to pay payroll because nobody can see it. And not to mention the fact that parking lot behind my diner is always left disgusting after the carnival leaves. Grease, nails, screws, glass, trash, graffiti, and it's not really a place that I personally want to serve food or have people purchase food. But we were just sitting here and just honestly minding our own business until we heard that. And so I wanted to come up here because it's a little upsetting to me that both of our businesses being down, that food trucks from not this island that doesn't have a brick and mortar on this island can block people's homes in public property, but we can't park our nice clean food truck that was inspected last Friday by the health inspector to keep our businesses alive. Because I myself know that last year in September I did $60,000 in sales in my restaurant. I'm not going to have that. And anybody who has a business down here knows that if you lose that kind of money in this time of the year, off season, it could be detrimental. Because just because I have a restaurant, I'm not sitting on millions of dollars. I work just as hard as anybody else. And if I don't have that money for the month of September, while we're rebuilding and improving and growing, and don't have any form of money flow, and same with her, it could be detrimental to our business. And I would hate to spend 7 years of my life donating to this community community, being a participant in many events, and lose my business over this. So I just wanted to get up here and say that that really hurts my feelings, really. I'm going to get upset because it's a very stressful time, but it hurts my feelings that food trucks that aren't a part of this island and community could do it, but we were denied the opportunity to do it. We were willing to pay any fees in ordinance. We even, on Saturday, the day that we did get to do it before we got shut down, fed the meter all day long with my food truck. So we didn't want to step on anybody's toes. We're just trying to survive. And I'd like to say that it's a little upsetting to hear that people can do that. We can't. We can't put our food truck here. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that our little food truck, it's not hurting anybody's business that got lucky enough to be up and running and continuing September, even though it's not like a normal September because the tourists and stuff aren't quite here, but they still have that money flow. So, do you have anything to say, Laura?
I mean, this food truck is really the only way the dive can survive right now until we get up and running, because we can't sell alcohol without food, and our kitchen is completely trashed right now. So,
but the health department has been in my restaurant, her restaurant, and our food truck, and gave us 100% approval by their boss that we're doing everything correct. So
we'll have it up and running in hopefully 2 weeks.
we just asked for a
Your
timeline.
restaurant, that is.
We're hoping.
And my guy, our contractor, two different contractors, but we're both looking at between 2 to 3 weeks. So when we came and talked, actually came with her husband on Monday morning, first thing, we asked for a timeline, not to just any other time. I mean, we have no issues following the ordinance and paying or going where we are supposed to go or not supposed to go, but this time we just asked for a slight timeline because, I mean, I keep seeing everything on Facebook, CB strong and we're a community and we'll work together, but that's a little upsetting to me because, we asked for just a small timeline just so we can keep our employees employed and not lose them and just,
Yeah,
anyways,
it's tough.
I just didn't even know that I was going to come here and hear that, but after hearing it, I had to get up here and say something because it bothered me. But
No, I appreciate you guys coming up, and I went in on Saturday and saw Ryan again on Sunday, told him, I totally understand you guys, what you're trying to do. You're just trying to get back on your feet.
that's all. Not
you know,
stepping
and
on people's
rebuild
feet.
and contribute again to the town's tax base.
Yeah.
Right. So I think what you're getting at is an exception to policy given the extenuating circumstances.
That's really all we're asking.
I can tell you what you heard tonight, and I will defer to either the town attorney or the town manager. The difference is that was an approved special event, which has always been on the books, and versus a day-to-day operation. I think that's the difference. Just so you understand, we didn't do any special favors for that group. That was something that was always allowed.
No,
Yeah.
and I understand special events because I do my food truck
Right,
for special
right.
events, and I get that. And I know that I'm allowed to go to private properties as long as I'm there,
Right.
And I know it's different with public, but after hearing about the church, and of course I would want the church
Right.
to be able to do anything they got to do for people, but the exception being made for them to be able to park in public and it not be and it's not they're not even local trucks. They're probably coming from Wilmington because I don't know of any other
Maybe.
place on the island that has a food truck besides me, and I'm brick and mortar, but yet there wasn't an exception made for me. Like I said, we've already discussed it, and we have accepted our answer, and we're not here to ruffle feathers at all, and we definitely don't want to upset anybody, but it seems like exception was made for them, and we're your local people, so.
I don't know that an exception was made. That's what I'm trying to understand from
Well, it's
staff.
You're supposed to be parked on public property, except for if it's a private event. But I mean,
I don't know. That's why I'm looking to staff.
currently,
Putting in.
our ordinance for special events does allow the special event to operate on public property. And that special event, in doing that, can have food trucks. So there was no exception made. We followed
That's what I
our
wanted
special
to hear.
events ordinance.
Well, and it's a
Per-
limited
per
window
that.
of time. It's kind of like the Rib Fest asked to block off
Right.
part of Cape Fear, and they were going to do something, and they imported some different food purveyors that may or may not have been food trucks. So it's not an exception that was done something different. I mean, frankly, we tried to figure out a way to work with you guys because we understand why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Sure.
But just to be real honest with you, we got other businesses and other restaurants that are having the same struggle.
Right.
They can't open because they can't provide food, so they can't serve alcohol, or their seating is damaged. So the problem was parking on Lake Park. And I know that may seem odd to you because no one's parking in
No,
those
I
spaces.
get it. I
that, but
definitely get it. We do.
so we tried to come up with a solution and say, where can you guys park to still do that? I saw the big sheet of plywood with the arrows painted that said food truck, and I'm hoping people will get down there. What was presented to us originally was you guys were using the food truck to feed your guys that were in doing repair work.
No.
And then, well, I mean, that's so. I
No,
mean, we
that-
saw
I-
that
we
out
never
there.
said
And
that,
I'm
no.
just saying. So we're trying to follow the rules, and we're in the middle of that whole food truck discussion.
It's
right
a
now.
nightmare anyways.
Right.
It really
I mean, I
is.
feel
So
like,
just hang in there. You guys, I applaud the creativity that you came up with to get both
yeah,
your
we were
businesses
just
open.
trying to.
I agree.
I see
Very
everyone
creative.
out there wanting to support it, so I see our residents saying, "Look, let's go down and
Yeah.
you know, I read all those comments. I see who's been out and buying, wanting tacos or
Saw my name on it, too.
Philly cheesesteak. So I
Well,
applaud the creativity.
and I understand the whole public-private because we've been doing the food truck for a while. And like I said, I mean, we get it, but we were just hoping that an exception would be made. And, but we tried, and like I said, our feelings aren't hurt. We know that we'll survive, but we would just thought that since we had the opportunity to get in front of people and just say, and it would just be better if that back parking lot when the carnival left wasn't left.
Whose parking lot is it?
The one right behind.
Yeah, I know, but whose is it?
I don't know. That's the
Do
whole
they give
thing.
you permission to park your food truck back there?
Well, it's parked right behind my restaurant, which we have a certain amount of footage behind my restaurant, so it's parked in.
So it's on your property.
Yes.
Right.
Right, but it's just the whole parking lot itself is
Have you,
always.
have you thought about being able to park at the Pleasure Island Rentals?
They've got a lot of trucks down there because they're doing renovations too, and then
Yeah.
for the Shuck and Shack, it's just crowded. So it's okay. I just, like I said, everybody's tried. Mr. Kramer, I talked to him. He was very polite. Talked to us. He did everything that he could, and I do appreciate that. And Mr. Benson, he helped us out. Tried to help us out too. So we just thought we'd give it another shot. That's all.
And I don't blame you for that.
So yeah, we really just came in here to see what was going on, and thought we'd have this opportunity.
Hopefully, there are some community development block grants that are hopefully going to be available to the businesses to help you to recover from this.
Yeah.
And so certainly be keeping your ear out for that because
Okay.
that's going to be important. There's a lot of money that's going to come that way. So
Right.
we'll try to help from our standpoint of making sure that the public knows where that help is so you can get that.
Well, we wish the best to everyone, and we'll be back.
It's a tough
We'll
time.
be good. Yeah, we'll work together.
I
when we
appreciate
do
your,
get open
your
and
creativity
we'll do
and
something.
teamwork.
Amy and Lori, as soon as we find out a point of contact, I'll come back and deliver it to you guys because I appreciate you coming up and speaking to us. The least we can do is a point to point
Okay,
Well,
thank
thank
you.
you.
and get out from behind social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get in that mess. I was like, I didn't want to get in that, but I appreciate everything.
My
Thank you,
two, before we
Thank you.
leave, I'd like to just say my 2 cents on this really quick. Is that number one is that we're not a textbook community. I know we say that all the time, and we are following things through a textbook. In regards to the setting that we have, more than likely it appears that it doesn't seem like anything's going to change. However, this is going back to P&Z for them to review this. So maybe going forward, it could be one of those things that we can implement that says, if there's an event like this, maybe there's some sort of a leeway that we can use to help businesses out. So that way, an
Yeah.
event like this, it's
That would be
just,
good.
it does suck at this moment. It appears that there's nothing that no one was willing to
Well, and it's
step
such
up
a
to
new
do.
ordinance, and it's such a new ordinance. And literally, when we got our food truck last winter, that's when the whole storm, kind of the food truck thing started happening. And I was like, wow, I just wanted to have another little business, and all this stuff is starting to happen with food trucks. So, yeah,
Yeah, it
I understand
sucks.
everything's new, the ordinance are new and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that would be awesome, Joanne. I appreciate that.
Amy, to my point earlier, what Joe Dan said, extenuating circumstances.
Exactly. That would be awesome.
Right.
We
Sorry.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Would anybody else like to come up? Public comment section still open? Wow. No? Okay.
Move on.
All right, moving on to,
All right, wait, we should probably clarify that.
We
'cause
need to
wait,
clarify that because I
it is
don't know
not
anything
coming
about
back to
P&Z.
P&Z.
The ordinance is coming back to council,
Not to
text
P&Z.
amendment.
to council at the next council meeting in 2 weeks.
P&Z
Staff is
not-
presenting to council. That is not a item that needs to go to P&Z.
I thought we
We
Say
had,
that again.
we had originally taken it to P&Z because P&Z had requested to hear the item and asked us to look at it, but it's not. Typically, they only look at zoning and subdivision codes, so that's the only reason we took it to
thought
them
when we came out
initially.
of closed session,
Yeah.
we'd asked for them to re-look into everything.
No, we finished that conversation by
Having
Ms.
them.
Fox reminding us that this is not a zoning, it's an ordinance, and that goes through a council process. The reason it went through P&Z the first time is because P&Z actually brought it up, and members of P&Z brought it up and initiated the whole conversation. We will have that, Joe Dan. I believe what we had agreed at the last meeting that we had was to have a formal public process so that we can hear. And what we wanted to specifically do was make sure that we heard from our brick and mortar restaurants on exactly their concerns because of the lawsuit and our move to take away the brick and mortar requirement. And then we said we're going to relook at the whole thing,
Okay.
but that was a council process.
Apologies.
with that. Got a presentation on the Harper Ave streetscape.
And public
Open
hearing.
I'll open it up after we finish the presentation.
Mayor, council, this was mentioned to council at a workshop, and then you asked us to bring it back as a public hearing item to hear about the potential plans for the Harper Avenue streetscape. I'm going to let Jonathan take over and kind of go through the presentation that he did for Kimley Horn for us.
Mayor, members of council, thank you again for the opportunity to come back before you. We were scheduled to be here right before the weather event, and I'm glad that we're back so quickly to give you an overview of the project. So wanted to just kind of quickly go through this. This is the presentation that we gave almost a month ago when I came to give you an update on the project. But just to refamiliarize everybody with the project, we're looking at Harper Avenue and doing a streetscape project essentially from Lake Park over to Dowell Road, as you can see up on the screen there today. Roughly about 1 mile in length. Right-of-way varies between 90 and 100 feet. It's some of the largest right-of-way for a public street that you'll find on the island. It's currently posted at 35 miles per hour. Sidewalks are approximately 1/3 of the corridor. If you go from Lake Park back to Harper Avenue, that's where you're going to find existing sidewalks through there. Given the width of the corridor, we've heard comments from the community that the sidewalks that are out there really don't feel like they're a part of the streetscape because they're so far away because the right-of-way is so large compared to some of the other streets. It's an undesignated collector street with the Wilmington MPO, and it's approximately 1,500 vehicles per day use this road. That count was done late last year or the middle of last year by the Wilmington MPO. As we were down here, we actually did a 2-day workshop, sat in council chambers and designed a lot of the concepts, spoke with the public, had openings. You can see here as we were doing some of our field visit, we had a nice, I think it was the tail end of the very rainy season that we had this summer. You can see out there, this is in front of Good Hops, you can see the flooding that was pretty pervasive there. Even drove through there this afternoon and there's still some water ponding there. During the SHRET, we actually had a conversation with NCDOT about this and are working with them to get some sort of resolution for this as they quickly came to realize that they are actually contributing to this more than I think they thought at the beginning. Quick overview of our process. I did mention the 2-day design workshop. That included some field observations, data collection. We collected a bunch of traffic counts at each of the locations or study area intersections. Had conversations, as we mentioned, with property owners, residents, business owners, town staff, NCDOT, Wilmington MPO, basically anyone that would come in and talk to us, and we had a lot of folks that did come in and talk to us. we spent time with them just to understand what was going on. We had a workshop each night where we presented what we found, the findings of the evening, and then a public meeting, which was on the 28th of August. And then we're back here for a public hearing for additional comments on September 25th. One of the cool things that we did, our first night we were here, we did keypad polling. We had about 21 people who showed up. If you did come to that, you got a little clicker that you got to vote with, and we asked a series of questions. I have all of that information that's been provided to the town. Really, we used that information, though, to figure out key elements relative to the streetscape design, what folks were looking for, whether it was we're looking for more green, we're looking for the sidewalks, we're looking for the multi-use path. That information is really important. And you can see kind of the snapshot up there. 65% were residents. We had 20% business owners, and then elected officials, and then, of course, one was the beach one. So it was kind of interesting to see everyone who came was very passionate about what they were looking for and provided us with some really good comments, as you can see here. One of the things that we took away that was really cool was the history of Harper Avenue and how it got its name, why it is a median divided facility. This is the only median divided facility on the island, and that the corridor is in need of a sort of a unifying character or design that needs to be brought forward, and it's a very cool opportunity for the community. It will be the only corridor we know, if it moves forward as this way, that would actually connect the state park to the beach with a multi-use facility as far as a multi-use path, which would be a great thing for the community as well as visitors. We heard a lot about parking. You can see up there on the graphic, this is down at the very end with Lake Park. You can see a lot of folks use the existing right-of-way as a parking facility, so we had to consider that as we're working through our design. And there's some recommendations up there earlier, but this is an opportunity for us to collect it a little bit better. We actually spent some time since our public meeting in the field with town staff. We walked the corridor. We looked at each of the locations. We provided input relative to that. We spent a lot of time talking with residents who were out in the field, who were actually sitting on their porches. Anyone, again, that would talk to us, we spoke with them about this project, their needs, their concerns, and how we're looking to move forward. One of the key takeaways was keeping the green. A lot of folks like the median. They like the look of it. They like the feel of it. It's a different street, and it provides a unique setting, if you will. And so in our concept design, you can see we've retained that. We're utilizing it just a tad bit differently than it is today. Maybe the width of it is changing would be really the only thing. One key thing to point out, we did hear a lot of people talk about stormwater and its ability for the median to absorb stormwater. Unless I do not have a grasp on physics, water does not go uphill and over a curb to get in there. So that's just one key point that we did want to make sure we clarified relative to that. Bikes and pads are extremely important in this community. We heard that even tonight. One thing that's unique about this corridor that we're designing is going to have a sidewalk on the one existing side. It's going to have a multi-use path on the other side. Again, it's going to connect the current greenway all the way down to the boardwalk, which will be a really wonderful facility. I don't think there was a single person that showed up or that I have spoken to the time that I've spent in the community that did not like the multi-use path. The concern was, how is it integrated? What are we doing with intersections? And what is it going to look like? And one thing that was really brought up was Cape Fear Boulevard and its current configuration and how the multi-use path looks, and if there's a way to distinguish that from the existing roadway so we don't have vehicles trying to drive down that. So that was actually a very good comment that we did receive, and you'll see that in the concept that we talked about. The corridor has such a unique context, and it's evolved over time, and it's actually changed from when we had the post office here. We've got very few commercial establishments that are on here, but it's a different look and feel, as you can see up there on Section A, which really runs up to Lumberton, the 4th Avenue intersection. And that's really where we see a transition in a plan. Now, the median exists. It currently goes a little bit further up there, as you can see. But we're actually looking at accommodating a smaller section of that median, which I'll show you here in a second. The Section B, if you travel up through there today, you notice you've got really wide lanes. There's no median through there. It's a different look and feel. And we're going to try to bring elements together to make this one cohesive design, even though you'll have two different typical sections. one thing that we heard the last time when I was here in front of council was that you would like for us to accommodate a 12-foot travel lane. I had talked about an 11-foot travel lane and a 9-10-foot median through there. We have updated the concept. It does include a 12-foot travel lane, and that really was done there so that we have a little more maneuverability. One of the comments we heard relative to the Cape Fear typical section was that travel lanes are kind of narrow. You've got parking that's really close to Lake Park. So you'll notice on the screen up here where the Celtic Creamery is at Lake Park, that area is nice and wide. We don't have any parking up close to that location. There is a little more room. We could work with some stuff, but really our goal was if you're coming from Lake Park and you turn onto Harper Avenue and you headed over to Dow Road, your car is turned and you're facing forward before you encounter a parked vehicle. There's been stories of folks backing out on Cape Fear Boulevard as they're coming out of a parking space, and they're actually backing into Lake Park. So we're taking a lot of the comments very seriously. You can see the overall layout through here. We've walked, Ed and I have walked the property or the corridor through here, looked at each location where we can actually put a driveway apron through there relative to the concept. We're working to get all of that translated over with the new survey right now. But this section we see here really goes through 4th. You can see there's a greater concentration of parking through these locations. You can see the multi-use path, which is shown in sort of a brown sienna color, if you will. You can see the connectivity that it does provide through there. You can also see the median. We did keep that. We do think that there's value to that. I really want to point out something relative that's not really relative to the corridor itself as far as the typical section. It deals with the intersection over here with Lake Park. A lot of comments from the residents were about the configuration of the laneage over here and how you have a dedicated right or channelized right coming out from the boardwalk, and you've got a through left. Well, as we change the typical section through here, and actually this gets sort of squeezed in a little bit more, so the laneage changes a little bit, what will happen is that through left will actually be pointing at the through right on the other side, creating a really a dangerous situation. If you're not paying attention, if you're a visitor, which you have a lot of visitors here, someone could mistake that in the evening, drive forward, and you have the potential there. But just because it's not a typical lane assignment to have a left and a through combined together. We've had a couple conversations with DOT. They understand the conflict there and are willing to explore that a little bit further, and hopefully will be willing to make those changes with the signal itself to accommodate that.
What would those changes look like?
That's a great point. So what the changes would be a change in the lane configuration. So now where you have the right-only movement, that would become a through right. So that through right then lines up with this through movement on the other side. So your receiving lanes are tied together. It's a slight signal modification. You would take out we call it a 5-section head. That would be removed for that right turn lane and would be replaced with a 3-section head. So it's not a
Potentially we could have more backing up on that section of Harper coming off the boardwalk because they got to wait for the light to turn right if they're behind someone that's going through.
You potentially could have that. We've looked at the analysis for that and did not see anything that from our traffic analysis or from volumes that we collected, and we collected those during peak
Well,
season.
it's a pretty confusing right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people get in that right turn lane and wait for the light to turn and go straight through to the next onto Harper anyway, and the guy in the left lane, it gets very confusing down there. So
I think if we had some greater uniformity or driver expectancy there, you wouldn't see a loss in capacity.
So then would it be a dedicated left over?
It would be a dedicated left, so then it would match what you could see here, and then there's the opportunity to run a different phasing with that if you wanted to, so you could call lefts and have.
So when you talk about a dedicated phasing, you're talking about the signal, the traffic light, and the timing of that light, and how those lights. Okay.
And so you'd have an arrow that would pop up that would say only lefts can turn at this time.
Right.
Looking at the section from 4th to 6th, you can see this is the transition zone. It goes basically from the median divided section down to basically a 2-lane section through here where you've got narrower lanes. If you're out there today, you've got lanes that are upwards of 15 to 16 feet through this location. We'd be bringing those down to 12 feet. There would be about an 8-foot separation between the edge of travel way on the I'll call it the south side of the corridor before you get to the multi-use path. And the intent of this is that we can actually get all of the laneage in there new typical section, we're not impacting or going outside of the existing right-of-way through there, and still accommodate the goals that we want. And one of the things we did here is that at times Harper Avenue can turn into a racetrack, just given the existing widths that are out there. People drive faster than they are, and we all know that if it's posted 35 miles per hour, it means that you can drive 5 to 10 miles over that before you get in trouble. That's what a lot of people will think, and that's how the behavior we have seen as we've been out in the field there. So one of the things we would look for would be a speed limit reduction through here, 25 miles per hour to help with that. Narrowing the lanes down is going to help with that as well as we move forward. Then the last section really kind of runs out, takes you up to Harper Avenue. You can see how it connects into the greenway where the existing crosswalk is for Dow Road. It's the same typical section that I just showed you before, 12-foot lanes, 8-foot planting strip, and then, of course, a 10-foot hardscape multi-use path at that point. But does connect and does provide that connectivity associated with that. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have or take any comments from the public if you wish me to.
Councilman? Well, I'll open it up for a second unless there's anything.
I'd like to hear from the public first.
Yeah.
I got just one, and you might have answered this to me when I came to the public discussion. How close does the right-of-way come to some of the residents on the south side of Harper? I know there was a concern with one gentleman, understanding what the right-of-way means, but
Sure. In a lot of cases, what you can see, and this is really sort of the area where it gets very tight because you've got a much larger section. You've got parking, you've got the median, and in a lot of cases, what we're actually seeing is that where the existing sidewalk is, it will be no closer than where the existing sidewalk is today, so the back of the sidewalk. In some
Okay.
cases, we'll actually see it move inward as we begin to kind of tighten that up. It doesn't mean the right-of-way goes away. It just means that the multi-use path or the sidewalk in locations can actually squeeze in on that south side. So you get a little bit more room than what you have. In a lot of cases, what you're going to see is that you're not going to see a change at all. You're going to have more space through there. You're going to have locations where it's going to feel larger than it does today.
okay, great, thanks.
Yes, absolutely.
So with that, I'd like to make a motion to open for public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Would anybody like to come and comment on the proposed streetscape? Not so surprised. Hi, Tricia.
Hi, Patricia Jones, 612 Carolina Beach Ave North. I'm here in favor of the new proposed plan, and definitely I am 100% in favor of 25 miles per hour throughout our entire town. So if Harper can be included in that, I would love to see that. Thank you.
Thanks. Said you're good.
Thanks, Patricia.
Yes, Fred. Thanks. Anyone else? On Harper Streetscape? Okay. With that, I'd like to.
Joe, one of the things I'd like to mention is, that, as Steve pointed out during the workshop, is that this is an extra. This is something that's not included in the budget for our streetscape currently, correct?
It will be included, but currently we do not have the funding dedicated for the streetscape portion on Harper. So what we will end up doing is, if council wants to continue on with this process, putting that into the plans, going out for bid, and then trying to find the funding associated to that, which most likely would be some level of
You seem to be going out.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
And estimated cost.
Close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay.
Can you show us that portion up by Harper and Dow Road? So can you talk to us a little bit about what's happening at the intersection of Harper and Dow? I'm interested in making sure that we get as much green. We have the median up front on Lake Park, and then we go a large section where we don't have the median, and then we get back to that kind of odd intersection back there.
Sure.
That what is the configuration? What are we looking at doing back there? And is there an opportunity to do some kind of median back there or some kind of green instead of just hardscape?
Well, I do think that there's an opportunity for some green up there. There's an opportunity through this project actually to help working with NCDOT to clean up the retention facility that has kind of naturally evolved there in the front of Good Hops. The greening really comes in for this section, and it's really along the south side. So as you have that section, as we're showing here, from 6th to Dow Road, and it kind of goes all the way up to 4th, you've got the opportunity through there for additional plantings in that section to provide some additional, interesting character,
Fruit trees.
fields.
I'm more interested in that Dow Road intersection because it's got that, again, it's an odd angle. It's not dissimilar to St. Joseph and Lake Park where you couldn't get that intersection approved today with DOT. You come in and it's
You're
an
right.
odd angle and you turn left and we've got a concrete triangle in there. It's just, so I would really want us to focus on what that 200 square feet right in that area looks like so that we can make sure people have good traffic flow through there. It is one opportunity for when we have people coming to the island. It's one of the first entrances. We've done a lot across the bridge, when you come across the bridge, right? And when you come down Cape Fear, we get what we get because we have the fire department, but we've got our multi-use trail.
Yep.
But Harper's the other one that people use to come into town. And when they're coming in, to be able to say, welcome to Carolina Beach or welcome home, I mean, that corner is I really would like us to take a look at that when it gets down to the final design.
That is, it's actually something that we explored with folks during the design workshop, looking at that. Is there a way to improve that? Because you're right, it's beyond the angle at which it approaches the intersection does not meet NCDOT design standards. They wouldn't approve that today, as you said. There is a way that you can keep it within the right-of-way currently and adjust that slightly. The direction and goal was to maintain the existing crossing where it was. So when you do that, that kind of dictates what you can do. Now, we can adjust the top so that you improve that approach so that when I'm actually turning, it's a 90-degree intersection there. There's some slight modification you can do.
Well, it's a combination of the approach and just the aesthetic look. I mean, I do think it's important that we keep that crossing there. We've worked really hard to try and get our bike and trail network and cross over to the state park and bring people in and do that. And I think that's, we've got flashing pedestrian. We're trying to get people used to that. It's just a very odd intersection.
I agree. It's not, and I'm not trying to be critical. It's not inviting. If I'm using the Greenway, it's not a place that I want to stop and recreate or pause for a minute. But I will say that the unique geometry actually provides you with an opportunity. When you have spaces like that, and the other one I'll point back to that we've talked a little bit about is this section here with Florence, where you've got this little intersection coming in here, and we're taking away that section of Florence because it's just an odd configuration. It leaves those spaces that can be redone to either create a parklet or do something special there. We haven't gotten to the actual design of that yet, but it is noted. I will make a note of that. We can discuss it further too.
Can you go back 2 slides where you just showed 3rd and Florence? That little cut through right there next to 3rd, that show that little crosswalk. Something that would be super beneficial where 7th crosses over as well. Because a lot of our residents either bike or the golf cart, they cut across where Dow is, they shoot right there. So having something like that at 7th. I also like the idea, Steve, of possibly is something that catches their eye. When they're,
But I'm talking about the aesthetic.
yeah, whether it's some sort of local artist that changes yearly or just something that they see and it's like, wow, this is still part of CV. Right. I like that.
The one item that I'd mention about that, and Jonathan, you can kind of talk a little bit more about that, is right there on the screen in the center is the 7th Street where you're talking about. We only have sidewalks on the on the east side of that intersection. So we would have to have something for a landing pad. So you may end up putting it on the opposite side, but you could have a crosswalk there, yes.
That's a good point, Michael. What the concept doesn't show, and that's something that Ed and I have been talking about, is where we're going to have crossings of Harper itself and the look and feel of those. That'll be more of the design details as we get into that and work through that. But there'll be some locations where we'll have the opportunity, especially as we back up and head through the places where we can actually create a pedestrian refuge. And so as you're crossing, you can do a two-stage crossing if you wanted to, so you can get to the middle and then pause, and it's wide enough where you can actually stand there and not feel like you're standing in the middle of the street. So there'll be some details that are obviously going to be added to that. As we're working through that, a lot of that is dictated by the design, site distance, and other elements like that. But we'll be presenting those as well as we move forward.
So in your experience, I mean, I know we're pretty far away from getting there, but I mean, have we started to put any kind of dollar amounts on this, because it is separate from our infrastructure? And I know Jerry's over there; he's ready to get to work finding some more grants now that he's got Cape Fear wrapped up, and the bike trail wrapped up, and the harbor wrapped up, and he just. So, I mean, do we have any thumbnail ballpark on what we're talking about?
We haven't done that yet, but that's something we can pull together and provide to the town.
I know at the end of Harper, where Good Hops is, that pathway looks like it goes right through their lake. So I hope there is a solution to that.
A bridge.
There is a bridge. I don't think a bridge is going to help Good Hops.
Yeah.
I think we need to make sure we get it dry.
But the downsides about that is when that curve is like a race car track, kind of goes like that, so the water naturally
That's
flows
part of the
into the lot.
Yeah,
Bridge.
A bridge.
4x4s for everybody.
What's the process from here?
If council would like, you can vote to approve moving on with this concept plan and getting to engineering and some additional design things. When we start knocking out those design elements like crosswalks and things of that nature, and the intersection down at Dow Road, those are things that we'll bring back to you during the process to workshops and say, what do you think about this? What do you think about
So
that?
at
Before we get to an end product.
At that point, if we wanted to do some cost cutting, such as less sidewalks on one side, we could do that at that time.
Certainly, certainly.
That would be great. I do think that the folks down along 3rd and 4th in that block have contacted me, and I know they've reached out to other people on council. They want to make sure that they're protected on their residential parking. And when we add those landscape medians, or the they're not the medians, but along the side of the bike trail, anytime we add green, we're taking away from where people are currently parking, even though we don't necessarily want them parking that way. So I'm just cautionary about the number of parking spaces that we end up yielding versus what we have today, and what would be reserved for those residents in that Lake Park, the 4th area.
And we've had
That
several
needs-
conversations with those folks too. So yes, sir, we're very mindful of that.
All right. Do I have a motion? Anyone?
I'd make a motion to move forward with the Harper Avenue streetscape. And
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
At 25 miles an hour.
Okay.
That's kind of.
Jerry? On the greenway fencing options.
Yes. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
You bet.
So after last month's meeting, we went back and narrowed down some of the proposals we'd received, some of the cost estimates, some of the vendors, and narrowed it down really to, we've circled back to the existing contractor for a couple reasons. One, the outside vendors that provided information either didn't meet specs or their prices were higher. Plus, we wouldn't have been able to use the grant funds. We've got about $46,000 left in the budget. So the prices you see tonight are going to be all from the existing vendor with the existing contractor. And that last slide there, we still have not received final approval from Matsu. We sent all the options over to Matsu last month. And they came back with some comments. They said generally options 1 and 2, which I'll present, met their standards and specs, but they had some comments about gauge of wire and some not minor things, but things that were addressable. We had our contractor address those comments, and we sent the package back over to them first week in September, and then the storm happened, and we attempted to contact them by email and phone. We haven't had any response. I understand they're dealing with some damage over there, so they've got their hands full. So we're hoping to hear back very soon, but it was the first review was positive, so we think we can get there.
Jerry, can I interject?
Sure.
The fences, the options that we're going to discuss tonight, those are options that were presented by Colonel Hart, the previous Matsu commander, who said that these are DOD compliant.
They are options that were discussed by Colonel Hart and also straight out of the manual,
Right.
spec manual.
So if a
And,
reply back to Matsu, to now Colonel Carlisle, who I reached out to today, hope to hear from her soon on this, would be, these are previously approved, so allow us to proceed, select one, modify the easement, given that. In other words, really, it's just a formality in terms of which fence, by my read.
Right, but there were, if you look through that spec manual, it's some of it's not exactly black and white. So the options we sent over, to the best of the ability of the the fence contractor, met those standards, but they came back and said, yeah, it's a little bit different, and it was fairly minor comments, but they were comments, so we addressed them, and we haven't received the final approval yet. But the options we sent over were in accordance with the specs. So what we sent over were one option for aluminized 8-foot chain link, and that's the raw proposal number. I'm going to work through the math a little bit later. $162,000 for aluminized. Black chain link was $178,000, and the industrial grade black ornamental fence was coming in at $248,000. So a little higher than some of the numbers we presented last month, but again, those numbers, not all of them met specs, and we had to call those out. As far as the legal procedural, nothing's changed since last month. We can't, according to Matsu, we can't mix and match fence types. Any specific change would have to be approved through a lease amendment through Matsu Command and the Army Savannah Real Estate District. And that could take several weeks or longer, but if we make a decision tonight, we'll initiate that process. The DOT grant agreement, by using the existing contractor, we wouldn't have to obtain any additional approval from DOT. The final contract closeout would be delayed by the time periods laid out a little bit later. We're going to have some delays, obviously. Additional funds from the MPO and DOT. We had some conversations with MPO staff. There was not a lot of positive comment about whether we get additional funding from the MPO. We've been back to that well 3 times now. They do have money this year and next year, but it's all been allocated to other jurisdictions. There's another 28 or 29 projects out there that are still behind or in need of money, so they're looking at allocating the funds to those projects. So also, if we did go through that process, by the time we got through the Board of Transportation, we probably wouldn't be able to finish the project until February or March. Probably March, April at this point. Everything's kind of bumped a month over the past 2 weeks. So we haven't pursued that. If council would like us to pursue that, we could, but I think it's
2020, right, Jerry?
Yeah, 2019, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead.
He was off by a year there, Joe.
Yeah,
It is
just
2019.
12 months.
Okay.
Right. Bottom of the page typo. That might be
Better
more
vote
accurate.
so
It's
too.
exactly right.
Yeah.
It made
Yeah.
25. The existing construction contract impacts, we worked with DOT. They advised that if we keep the same contractor, but just change the fence type, it would not require a change order with DOT, and we've discussed that with the contractor. They're fine to just move ahead. We'd pretty much just max out the fence line items that we have, and then the additional cost for any change would be on the town's nickel. So there's the current project budget. We have $81,151. We've been billed or incurred cost about $35,000. So we got $46,151 left in the budget. So option 1, the aluminized chain link, is coming in at $162. If you figure in those costs, and we talked with the fence contractor about what's the cheapest, best way to repurpose the existing 125 posts that are in. So they could be cut off at ground level and reused for 4-foot fence, which we have need for at Mike Chapel Park at this point in time. There's a lot of fence that was going to be replaced. Eric needs more fence now. We've had storm damage, so that's something we want to get with the fence contractor and see if we can roll some of those posts and reuse them at the park. That's going to be a negotiation we'll just have to proceed with. We're going to have that conversation probably sometime this week. So that number of this $41,300, $6,300 of that is a restocking fee. So if we can use some or all the posts, if we can use some or all, I don't think we can use any of the fence, but that number could change. So that's kind of a worst case scenario. Another $2,000 to remove, cut the post off. And then you could take into account the grant balance we have. We're coming in at $161.46 for aluminized.
Which would be 100% on the town's.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So that's including the $46,000 we have. You guys asked for schedule, install warranty, 2 to 3 weeks for delivery, another 2 to 3 for install. It's 15-year warranty. Kick us out probably to November 6th to complete. So that's aluminized. Option 2 is the black chain link that a lot of folks have expressed favor. That one came in at $178,000. If you do the math with that, we get down to $176,123. Basically the same schedule for delivery, install, same warranty, November 6th. This is a black ornamental aluminum, 8-foot option. That the bottom line on this comes in at $239,000. A longer lead time, longer install time. It'd be Christmas probably by the time we finish that, but it does have lifetime warranty. So, and here's the breakdown side by side for the 3 options, and be glad to answer any questions.
Council, public comment first, I think. Okay, I can do that. Motion to open for public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. No one has signed up for this, but at this point, would anybody like to come and approach council and discuss?
Again, Patricia Jones. I came to those meetings when we first started this project, discussing it a few years ago, where it really looked like it was going to happen for us. The majority of us that were here were so excited about the possibility of having a path as part of our community. We've had conversations since, and we don't remember the top of the fence having the barbed wire. We had always known about the aluminum fence. It was worth it to us back then to have it. And I know that some of these beautiful homes have been built since then. I'm not in favor of $239,000 being spent of the town's money. I think there's other needs that we need, more critical, like the water that we're working on for that. I realize it's a lifetime. I'm not sure if people realize that we are on a lease, though, for this property from Matsu. So is that a lifetime lease? I think it was a 10-year lease, was it not?
Yeah, it's year to year now.
It's year to year already. So I'm in favor of pushing forward and doing the best with what we have. I agree, maybe perhaps a vote $16,000 at this project between white and black is irrelevant. I do know that black disappears. Once you have it up, it's not as noticeable as aluminum, but I'm definitely want to push forward, not cost the town too much money, and use that money for other projects that are for quality of life as well.
Thanks, Trish.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Brad, neighbor.
I'm Brad Hale. I live on Spot Lane. I guess I've spent a lot of time in military facilities, so barbed wire doesn't bother me, and now those aren't penitentiaries. But yeah, I agree with Ms. Jones that there are a lot of other things that are certainly more worthwhile, frankly, that the town could use that money for, as opposed to spending even $16,000 additionally, please.
Brad, are you not advocating for one of the three or just the
I'm
original design?
advocating to keep it the way it is now. Just go ahead with the 8-foot aluminum fence.
Well, that's not, unfortunately,
Right.
the way it is now.
Yeah.
Is
No, I understand.
right. So the minimum we're going to get away with is an extra $160,000 that we never had budgeted, which we don't have any grant money from, which is coming right out of the savings account, which is a $160,000 budget bust. So what I'm hearing you say is 160 works for you.
Yes, sir.
176, yeah, but 240, we really don't need to spend almost $250,000.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Thanks,
Thanks
Brad.
for your time.
Thank you, Brad.
Deb LeCompte, Charlotte Avenue. I'm with Patricia on this. Many of us sat through all the public hearings on this when we first started. I think we agreed upon the type of fence. We knew what we were getting. I just can't see us putting that kind of money into a fence that we're on a year-to-year lease for. It just seems to me a waste of taxpayer dollars. So I agree with Patricia.
What do you? Which fence are you?
I
in
think we
favor
go with
of?
what we have. I mean, if we have to make a choice between these, I'm going to say the aluminum fence. Why would we
No, you can keep
continue?
what we have.
Right, and just go with what we have, what we agreed upon years ago when we started this project.
Patrick Boykin, 702 Elton Avenue. My vote would be for the aluminized fence, the lower of the two. For 3 years, I've been to this council asking for something to be done at the Solid Waste Center, and you have never been able to find the money for that. So I find it hard to believe that you can find the money to add additional cost to this fence. So my vote and recommendation would be go with the first option.
Can you keep rolling through those pictures, Jerry? If you don't mind.
One thing I want to bring up is the Army's uniformity policy. If you have to consider that once this fence goes in, this is the fence that's going to be around all of Dow Road, everywhere that they're going to ever put a fence. It's going to have to look like what we're putting in now. And so I would like the ornamental fence because for an additional $70,000 you have a lifetime warranty, and I seriously doubt the Army's going to spend that money. They probably won't fence any more of the area unless they change their policy of uniformity. But the black is definitely my second alternative because we look at the fence directly in front of our house. And it's, we'd like to have, and we'd like for the island to look as good as it can, but we certainly would like to look at something that's far more attractive, so.
Melanie Cofield of 1615 Spot Lane. So, couple of things. When the fence was chosen several years ago, it did in fact have barbed wire. It did. In fact, people here, I believe Heather was here to speak against it. There were other people that spoke against the barbed wire top, but it was selected. So, this whole recent change that's come up this summer, this late spring, early summer, was because we discovered that we could have there were options. The newer residents were that had this whole thing. And there were discussions about Harbor Avenue and ways to make it prettier and plantings and all these things. And the same things should be addressed. The same reasoning behind making Harper Avenue look beautiful. I agree it should. Our whole town should, and we can only do so much. But the idea that people saying, well, we should stick with what we had. Well, that's the 6 foot with the barbed wire. And it's going to cost a minimum, as Mr. Shuttleworth said, of $160,000 just to get away from the barbed wire. That's just it. And I think worst case scenario is the black, because it does blend in. It looks nicer. It looks more like a park type amenity. And we love the path. It's wonderful. And it's just we want something that you've got this fence that's got 20 feet, 20 to 25 feet clearance away from the woods. And then it's another 10 feet, and then you're on the path if you haven't taken it. So it really stands plumb in the center of the whole path. So it is something that we do have to think about as far as aesthetics for the entire duration of the path, which is beautifully wooded on the side where the fence is. There, that side is wooded, but it's 20 feet, 25 feet away. So we want something that would blend in. We only thought we had to push for the beautiful, more expensive, $250,000, that fence, ornamental, because at the time it appeared that Colonel Hart was saying, it's this or that. It's the FE6 or it's the ornamental, and since other choices have taken place. But this is an area that spans 1.2 miles, is that 1.2 miles, and we're hoping lots of people want to take it. There are places where it is completely in the open for an entire block, that's our block, and open in other areas. But it's not just that, it's the experience for all the people that take the path. It's for the dog walkers, the skateboarders, the cyclists, all those people that we see quite often right now, but we're not, that's a whole other thing. But the fact that, we want this to be a beautiful park amenity, so the best we can do for that. And I do think there's something seriously to be said for a lifetime warranty, because while we all say, well, it's a 1-year lease, it's a 1-year lease. Believe me, I mean, a 1-year lease, that's a technical thing. There's no way we would be getting these kinds of grants, these huge grants, over $1 million in grants, for something that's a gamble that, we might lose it. They might plow it down in a year. No one thinks that's even a thought. That's not even a possibility. So I just encourage you to think long-term and the uniformity and all of that, and that it's a park amenity. So thank you so much.
I'm Phil Roth, 933 Carolina Sands Drive. Richard and I are neighbors, and so I've got like 300 feet behind my house to this fence. And I was just, from an aluminized fence versus the black fence, I think the real difference here is the black, okay? Because it's going to disappear into the woods. If you're a ways away from it, you're not going to see that black fence up there. So my vote would be number 2, which is the black chain link fence. I did this in Sumter, South Carolina, behind my house in the woods. You couldn't even tell the black fence was back there, 10 feet into the woods. So that's just my recommendation, I guess I would vote for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Jay.
701 Charlotte. I'll make this short and sweet. I think option number 2, the black chain link, just makes sense versus spending the additional $60,000, $70,000 for the high-end fence. Cosmetically, it'll be pretty, look good.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Heather Arnold, 921 Carolina Sands. I just believe it's worth it to get rid of the barbed wire. I did not move to Carolina Beach to feel like I live in a prison compound or to have a pathway that is a danger to kids and animals because of the barbed wire. I think barbed wire is not a greenway. It destroys the beauty and the community atmosphere that we carry as Carolina Beach and Pleasure Island. It just destroys the atmosphere, just also for locals as well as tourists, because we want this to be an amenity that draws people to our island, to get our locals out to exercise and to really be able to enjoy. So I just ask that you would please vote to get rid of the barbed wire. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Rich. I agree. Just anything but the barbed wire, and I just wanted to point out that as far as this being a year-to-year lease, Mike, what else does the town lease from Matsu?
We lease well sites, the treatment plant, multiple other properties. Most of them are on 5-year plus leases, just
Right. Stormwater
out of
ponds,
history. Stormwater ponds,
are
yes,
under
sir.
Separate leases.
Yes.
State Park has a lease with Matsu, so they pull out, then there's going to be a lot of people left within the bag. But, and especially after this investment of the bike path, it doesn't seem feasible.
Thanks, Rich. Anyone else?
Jackie Ponzoni. I live at 1201 Canal Drive, so I don't have a direct dog in this fight. But I think that overall our town has done so much to improve the aesthetics of a lot of our facilities, our boardwalks, our marina, and I think that this path and what surrounds it is an important part of our town and our image. So I would support option number 2, not the aluminum, but the black, which I'm somebody who hikes and bikes and has, been many places all over the country to wonderful parks and cities that are thinking about what their personality and their brand is. And I think this middle option represents a little bit more of an investment, but I think it would be a wise one for the town. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would just make a recommendation, part of a comment too. As we move forward and once you place a vote on this, we please also move forward with an idea of how we can name this trail. I think that will be a great way to identify it as well. If you can add something as wonderful, as she was saying, as a great name to it and getting people really involved, no matter what you decide on, I think that would help in the decision-making process too. We need to name it so that people
I'm
can
sure the Parks
come
and
to
Rec
it.
Committee will do that.
I love it. I was
Julianne
just
will follow up.
we need
Jerry
that
Hare's
moving.
Patient Pursuit Trail.
Isn't it called the Greenway now?
Gotta have something with Jerry's name on it.
Move to approve.
Patient Pursuit. Okay, I don't think there's anybody else. Nope. So I make a motion to close public hearing.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Council.
I'll start off.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Again, this surprises me coming into my first year that we didn't speak this highly about it when we were addressing it at that time. A few of the things that I'd like to say is, number one is this is coming right out of our pocket, and we've been addressing how we need to save our general fund. This is anywhere between, it looks like, I don't know, maybe 6 to about 10% out of our general fund to pay for this. I think what's going to happen within this next year, maybe 2, I personally feel we need to focus on other things. If it has a 15-year lifespan, when we can build up that fund and it looks like it's deteriorating, we need to upgrade or something. I personally, I almost even feel just staying with what's there now. $160,000 is a big bite, no matter who you are. $240,000, even more. If people were leaning towards it, I can maybe see spending the extra 16, but that's a huge chunk of money out of our fund there.
So I would just like to revisit some of the history, because this has been a trail that's been in the process for a long time. It's one of the first things I did when I got elected is went down and met with Curie Beach to try and get them to agree to have a trail system that went all the way down to the ferry. And all we could get was to Alabama. And we went through some really difficult council meetings and hearings. I mean, when Matsu first came, they wanted the trail on one side of the lake. They wanted fence on both sides. They wanted barbed wire. And we really had some tough council meetings where we tried to figure out how to move it. And we battled with Matsu, and we really worked through that. And in the middle of all that, we got in trouble with them for other things on the island. So it's been a long process. But at that time that we passed it, there was an option there to discuss the type of fencing. So while barbed wire was mentioned, it wasn't cast in stone. And I think, Jodan, one of the problems that we've had as a community is always getting a continuity at this table of 5 people, where we should have had Michael and Jerry looking at this a year and a half ago when we went to get our grant and when we went to get our budget. We put a budget together, and they did what they thought they were instructed to do, which was to go get a budget that included a FE6 fence, which included barbed wire. And it wasn't until we actually started constructing that we all up here said, hey, wait a minute. We were supposed to revisit that whole thing. We didn't. So now we're in a point where we're having to eat $160 to $240,000, and that's a tough swallow.
Yeah.
You know, we have been worried about spending our town reserve fund, and I get people all the time say, "Oh, you guys are spending the reserve dime." Well, I'd ask all the people here and all those people listening, which project would you not have wanted us to fund? Because we haven't just gone out and willy-nilly spent this money. It's been recommended by the community. It's been recommended by staff, and we have spent money on things. Unfortunately, we're at a point where it looks like we're going to spend $160,000 to $240,000. Personally, it's just really difficult. I don't want to see the chain. I don't want to see the barbed wire. It's just not an option. We should have caught it ahead of time. We didn't. That stops on this side of the table, not on that side of the table. So for me, if we're going to spend 160,
What's the 16?
176, it is a much more aesthetically looking, pleasing fence. I'm not concerned about the 1-year lease with Matsu. They're going to give us an annual lease. They always have the right. The likelihood of them withdrawing that is we would really have to stub our toe on something, which we've had the propensity to do. I just, you know, for me, I would lean towards that 176. If we're going to spend 160, the extra 16 is not going to break the bank. The 160 is painful enough. So that's just, I would like to do that. I think we need to move forward as a community. We need to get this thing going. We need to get Jerry onto other projects. We need to open the damn trail. So that's where I would be.
I agree with Steve's recollection of the history of the Greenway. We've had multiple discussions, and I remember when I first got on council, everybody had the same comments about the barbed wire, and we all agreed we didn't want it either, and we would revisit the fence when the time came. I don't know where that happened that we didn't revisit it, but I was shocked to find out that that's what we were putting up was FE6 barbed wire, because I thought back then we decided that was not what we were going to do, and we knew that we had other options. So with that being said, I'm not sure where that got missed. But anyway, my concern with the 8-foot aluminum is what I see around town is a lot of rusting. Am I correct with that, Jerry? Yes. I don't want to see that. I mean, if we're going to do it, let's just do it right. Let's move up to the black class number 2. No, I don't want to spend the money, but if we're going to do something, let's do it right. Let's make it look nice, and it's going to blend in, and I don't want to see a rusted fence in 10 years. You know, that's where I'm at.
Life expectancy, that's 15.
What now?
Aluminum.
My only comment they've already pretty much said is, and I was not on council during that time. I've read the minutes, but that's nonetheless, we're here now.
Yep.
And yeah, I think we do need to have a fence that's at least 160,000, 143. But I'm like them. I think for $15,977, you might as well go ahead and get the black color, and that would be my recommendation.
Let's make a motion for it.
Before I make a motion, we did get caught flat-footed. Steve and I talked on the phone the day we realized barbed wire was coming up, and that wasn't 2 months ago.
No, we said stop.
Yes, so on this side, I gave Michael the order to stop order on behalf of council, not on anything that the town staff did, just to be clear, as was stated previously. I keep going back to DOD standards. Homeland Security will require every inch of DOD property to be secured. So you build a mile of barbed wire, you're going to get 7, and you're going to get it, you know, till death do us part. So that is an investment that is critical. You want to look at barbed wire, fine. You can go to, you know, a minimum security prison facility. That's fine. We don't want to look at it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to speak for
I grew up in
anybody else.
neighborhoods with barbed wire fence, so I really don't enjoy when people bring that
I grew
up.
up in the same
Well, then we need to stop saying it's junkyards and prisons because people grow up in neighborhoods like that. So be very careful on the words you choose, man.
No, I love
We have residents listening to us to live in neighborhoods like that as well.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve the 8-foot
We'll
Class
take
B 2B fence for an additional expense of approximately $176,123 for the Island Greenway, and move forward and direct staff to make a budget adjustment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
At least we didn't get it on both sides, right? We had that fight for a long time.
That's exactly right. They
Hey,
wanted
Jerry.
it on both sides.
Jerry, I'll work with you on the colonel and just head
Let's take
nod
it
on Billy.
15 or
Yeah.
10. Mayor,
Yes, you will.
let's take it 10. Take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I said mine's right here.
I love it right behind my house on the old section. I've got chain link barbed wire fence I look at. Through, I have to look.
That's a core property. That's the core of engineering. Oh, yeah, yes. Well, let's look at it. In all seriousness, we should look at it. Okay?
Hey, make a motion to recess for 10 minutes. Actually, not a motion. 10-minute recess.
10 minutes.
5, 10, whatever. It's gonna be a long night.
3 minutes.
Steve can't even hit the exits right.
Mr. Grady's.
Well, actually, this was Ed's item, but I don't see Ed, so we can go ahead and start without him.
Somebody gave him a 2-minute break.
What we had discussed at a previous meeting was a request to evaluate the speed limit on Cape Fear Boulevard. He just rolled in slow, is all it is.
Slow.
When we were talking about that issue and looking at revising the speed limit to 25 from 35 on Cape Fear, we started looking at our Article 16-204, which is our speed limit article in our ordinance. And basically, there are 3 current streets that are at 35 miles an hour that are on our list. One is Cape Fear, Harper, and the other is Ocean Boulevard. Ocean Boulevard is a state system street, so that one sort of has to stay at their recommended level. We have talked to them in other situations, like on Lake Park, about changing the speed limits in certain areas. They haven't been quite as amenable on Ocean because it is a exit route for the hurricane evacuation route.
It's better than it was. It was 45.
It gets to 45, and then it cuts down. Everyone drives 80.
So the request that came in was to look at this ordinance and see if we couldn't adjust Cape Fear Boulevard from 3rd Street to Dow down to 25 miles an hour. But staff looked at it and said, well, if we're going to do that, we might as well do it also for Harper. And you heard from Jonathan tonight that that is a future consideration for the Harper streetscape, is that reducing that speed will make it so you can go in and reduce the width of the area and so forth. So it just made sense to recommend to council that we remove both of those items from our list of streets that are 35, and then the only one that'll be available for 35 is Ocean Boulevard.
Then we just got to work on Dow.
And Lake Park has a, how far is Lake Park?
Lake Park goes from, we have 2 sections that are 35 miles an hour and one that's 25, and it goes from Spartanburg or thereabouts all the way down to St. Joseph's. Thank you. And it's 25 in that area.
And actually, I think it starts at the veggie wagons where it starts 25 going north.
I think we did that because of the curve and the lake. I remember.
That's right. And we've changed that in a couple of different situations over the last 5 years.
Let's do the whole town. 25 sounds cool to me.
Okay. Any other?
Sound like, yeah, you guys would think of that, right? What might as well do every street, right? It's public safety, pedestrians, bicycles, dogs,
Could I
dog
ask the
carts.
chief? Did you put up those? Did you put up those speed limit signs? You said you were going to get some data for us. Yeah.
So currently the recommendation is to strike section 1 and 2 and only have Ocean Boulevard and any street that is controlled by the state as our items for 16-204.
I'm cool with that.
Well, let me open it to
Public
public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Fred's
Motion-
probably going to have
motion
a problem
passes.
with that.
Your time.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not really a race.
2 minutes and 59 seconds. You've already used 10 of the seconds.
To say, I do know that living on Cape Fear that it is a lot of golf carts now. You know, most everybody down here owns a golf cart and bicycles. With the bicycle path coming, with the golf carts, and not only in the summer but year round, we have a lot of traffic on that road, and I think the 25 would be the safest bet. So that's where I stand, and most of the people everyone I've talked to on Cape Fear goes along with me on that. So that's about it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good call.
Thanks for the time earlier.
Thanks, Fred, and thanks for bringing that to council. I know you brought that up a couple, well, maybe last month.
Yeah.
I'm glad you championed it.
Yeah.
Would anybody else like to? Hello, Dad.
Deb LeCompte, Charlotte Avenue. As somebody who rides my bicycle on this island more than I drive my car, I would definitely be in favor of 25 miles per hour on all of our residential streets. Not that it's going to slow a whole lot of people down,
Right.
but at least we can write some tickets.
Well, maybe 25 means 35 as opposed to 35
Well,
means 45.
if Chief would give me a book, I'd be writing tickets myself.
I've asked for a badge myself, but oh well.
Sir.
Yes.
That was my
Yes, sir.
question to Michael,
That's-
because the action requested doesn't reflect. Okay,
The-
good.
Yes, sir, it would be.
Okay.
Killing two birds with one stone, Fred.
Bang,
That's
bang,
right.
boogie.
We're trying to be.
I just need a seat
This
here.
sounds like just an echo chamber. The answer is
You
yes.
need a name tag.
Patricia Jones, Carolina Beach Ave North. When I first moved here, I had requested that we would have some sort of a signage as you're coming over that bridge that would say, "Welcome to Carolina Beach. Please slow down. Please yield to pedestrians and bicyclists in our community." I am in favor of every road that we can possibly put 25. I think a universal 25 miles per hour, if we could have that as people enter, it sets the expectation to come in and enjoy all that we have to offer. Take your time and enjoy us.
Thanks, Trish. Hello, Maureen.
Doreen Stanley, 1201 St. Joseph Street.
In regards to the speed limit, I'm an advocate for lowering the speed limit within the town to 25 miles per hour. I know a lot of folks see my Jeep around a lot because I'm all over the island working, doing property management support. And I think that's a lot of the problem with our crosswalks. People are excelling, they're slowing down because we have those speed limit changes on South Lake Park Boulevard. But I'm all for the reduction of the speed limit both in the residential districts as well as the business districts. In season, we have a lot of bicyclists, a lot of kids, a lot of folks on skateboards, and unfortunately we do have people who are intoxicated. They're on vacation. It happens. It's not just here, it's not a problem here, it's a problem in every town. But I am an advocate also for the signage that Patricia is referring to as people enter the island. I think, you know, the rule of life is we teach people how to treat us. And I think we need to set that example to our guests and our residents as they arrive on the island. We need to let them know this is a 25 mile per hour district. We need to slow down for the kids, for the people, for the safety of everyone who visits our island and lives here. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dora. Any other comments? Okay, with that, a motion to close public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'm in favor to reduce the speed limit to 25, like we discussed. I actually was on Cape Fear recently, and even the school bus was speeding. And if I could have figured out which one it was, I would have called the county. But I mean, it was just rolling down there pretty fast, and it had too fast to figure out which one it was exactly, or I would have. And Michael, I heard a couple comments tonight about the signage. Where are we at with that sign you and I have been talking about for a long time?
Excuse me. You're talking about the sign out here, out in front of Town Hall. We have gotten some bids back or some quotes back on it. on various different signs, but it did slow down because of the hurricane. We haven't received anything for the past 3 weeks or so. We will pick that back up and bring that to you, most likely at the next workshop, where we can show you some pictures of some examples and things of that nature. To address the issue about signage on 25 miles an hour for the entire community, that's an issue with DOT. That's not an issue with council or staff. DOT, because Lake Park is a DOT road, Dow Road's DOT road, and so is Ocean. All three of those have to be approved by NCDOT. At the current time, they aren't going to approve signage. We have asked them for that to try and slow people down. That is not their standard practice and not something that they've been interested in. We can continue to ask and present that to them as we go along.
You know, just thinking about, well, and for the public, what we've been talking about for several months is putting some kind of like they have in front of the fire department, a brick signage, a digital sign. We can put whatever we want on it. But, you know, it just hit me while we're sitting here. Have we looked at putting anything on one of our billboards? That'd be interesting. You come over and you'd see it on the billboard soon.
We can do it on the billboards. We have used up what is our PSAs, our free advertisement, so to speak. So anything that we do would be about $1,300 a month for advertisement of that. That's very similar to what we paid for the advertisement for the mobile park app that we started up in July. So that's always an option, but it is an expensive option.
I have an idea that if we, so back in, I believe it's February, March, we had the traffic study that was presented to us. And ultimately said that 1 mile, 1.7 mile stretch is one of the deadliest or one of the worst in North Carolina. I'm sure if we can use that data to hopefully push towards the DOT, if everybody was in favor of dropping Lake Park completely, that hopefully would be in our favor to get them batting in our corner saying, hey, I think we agree with you. Because when we shot for dropping the speed limit over the bridge, they really didn't care to do so, but did allow us the option of doing it. So I know it's going to be a bit of a battle, but with that data that we have, I would hopefully love to see that be a play in our corner, because with most of our residents, I also am an advocate for slowing down completely on this island. And I'm in favor of the 25.
I think we know where we're going with this.
Or what about ROT funds?
Yeah, ROT funds for that sign in front.
Most.
All right. Well, I'm still walking, so I'm sure I can dance. Let's
Steve
make a
doesn't
motion.
ride his bike.
Yes, Steve, shoot.
I'd make a motion to approve reducing the speed limit to 25 on Cape Fear and Harper.
That
All in
is
favor?
that's
Aye.
ordinance number 18-1092.
And I was looking for it rapidly, and that is the ordinance I was looking for.
And I had that ordinance, but that's fine.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Right?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right.
We did it, Fred. All right.
Up next.
Mayor, Council, this matter was placed on the agenda after, in August, the council adopted a resolution of intent to consider closing a 15-foot wide alley. That 15-foot wide alley is a portion of town right-of-way that is in between two parcels that are owned by Carolina Beach Presbyterian Church. If you would like to move forward with abandoning that parcel tonight, you need to have a public hearing and then adopt the street closing order that's in your packet. There is a plat or a survey that is in your packet that needs to be retitled per the street closing ordinance. It needs to be dated and actually shown as a street closing plat, but that plat does show the 15-foot alleyway that would be abandoned if you adopted the closing order number 18-1090.
Yeah, just wait, that's all?
Yeah.
No, sorry. Like to make a motion to open for public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Would anybody like to comment on
Motion to
subject
close
at
public
hand?
hearing?
Okay. Motion to close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I think this is kind of a bookkeeping item.
We
So
all-
Yeah.
Unless there's some strong objection, I would make a motion to approve Resolution 182185. And
All in favor?
amend the
sorry.
plat. Go ahead, help me.
I'm
walk
sorry.
through
The resolution was previously adopted in August. It's closing order ordinance number 18-1090.
this. And that is the motion, I would like the motion to reflect that, please, and also then to amend the plat. Do we need to do that?
Yes.
And instruct staff to amend the plat and get it recorded?
All in favor on both measures?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion's passed. Okay. Michael, you got the first item of business? Is there a presentation for that?
Yes, I do. This is just a discussion item for council.
Michael, what happens to the street sweeper that we have?
We'll actually go and trade it in. The manufacturer will give us a rebate, basically, anywhere between $80,000 and $100,000. And the reason I say that there's a range involved, that's what he's given us as a quote over the phone. He hasn't been up here to visually inspect the
So
unit.
that's the money we'll get back.
That is money that we'll get back, yes.
And will that go straight onto this note?
It could go straight onto the note, or we could just put it right back into the general fund, or not general fund, but the utility fund balance.
I mean, I'm looking, what is the difference in what we have and what we're paying?
Mm-hmm.
So about 180,000.
Yes, yes.
I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are. I would say that money should go directly to buy down this note.
And that would be fine.
Sounds like a good idea to me. Any other questions before? I'll make a motion that we pass resolution 18-2192 with the stipulation that the proceeds from the trading of the machine
rebate
we have now goes toward the pay down of the balance of the loan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Do you have all of our ballots? Before we get to that, was there any discussion from council on the appointment? Or we voted and we press? Okay. Okay. So John E2 is now a new member of the Planning and Zoning, just to get that out in the public domain. Great.
And
Okay.
we have some training for our P&Z members, right? Do we still do that?
New members will do sit down with staff and go through training. Yes, ma'am.
So let's get him trained.
Will do.
Excellent.
Okay, moving on. Do we have any non-agenda items?
I have.
do have some.
Sorry, I have a question.
She can go first.
Not to jump in front of you guys, but
No, go ahead.
when is the recycling picking up?
I've got an answer
Was
to
that your question? Who can answer that?
It will be picked up next week.
So not this week,
The Waste Industries, their recycling facility closed because of the storm, so they did not pick up recycling this week. They will pick up recycling next week.
Well, if my neighbors can stand it, my can's gonna sit out till Monday.
Well, I heard this was on Facebook, so take it for what it is. But Steve Wright, he usually has good information. He said that Waste Industries was going to be going around and picking up all of it and mixing it with garbage. So if that was the case, I was going to tell everybody, get your cans off the street.
Whether or not they can dump the recycling into the recycling collector is an issue for Waste Industries.
Right.
I believe what they are going to do is they have that set up so that they will have their waste hauler established by then in the next week. But if they don't, yes, your recycling will end up going to the landfill this time.
So unless that changes and you don't have a full can, you may want to wait a week. More. I just have one comment that I've learned that the Island Cottage, in view of some people that may need clothing, that they're giving away clothes this week to those in need for free. There's no cost. Yeah. Right, she is. But the clothes there, somebody needs it, comes, gets them, they can have that. So.
Okay, Joe, non-agenda? Scroll.
Yeah, well, I don't have my packet, man. It's just I'm kind of winging half my stuff tonight. With John, when he was presenting that, one thing that I personally would just kind of like to see is that when Steve asked him just rough ballpark for what he thinks this is called, he has no idea. No idea. If I'm going to present to somebody who's going to pay me a significant amount of money to present for, whether it's a streetscape, whether it's whatever it is, I would at least say, hey, buffer zone of X amount of money, and know that there's going to be a leeway of 10 grand to 20 grand on either side. That I think that going forward, anybody who's going to be bidding these things for us, at least in that paperwork, say at least try to have some sort of a small figure. Because when we're voting on this and our residents are sitting here and we ask him that, and he says, I don't know. Then our residents are, well, what are we paying? Because that's ultimately who's the person paying for this. So going forward, me personally, I would love to see some sort of a figure. Preferably not a made-up lie number, but hey, you know what? Roughly, in more communities that do 1.7 miles, you're looking at roughly 2.3 million or whatever it is, that we have an idea on what we're voting on.
I'm guessing that landscaping package and that bike trail and all that's going to have 2 comments in it. It's going to be north of 7.
Yeah, it's going to be, look what the greenway's costing us.
Part of the reason why you don't see during the conceptual planning stage an estimate from an engineer is because a lot of this has to do with what kind of road infrastructure
Material.
they're putting in and things like stormwater. So once they get into the actual designing, then they'll have a better estimate of dollar figure, and that's why you typically see the engineers come back with a engineer's estimate at that time, not during conceptual. Yes, they could give you a swag, but I've never had real good luck at giving anybody a swag.
Yeah.
A lot of variables, I know. I brought this, well, a few things I want to bring up just because I brought up the workshop, and I'm not sure if people still watching. It's just the EOC thing I spoke about. I think it's very important that we reiterate to our residents how that works, the understanding of that. I want to say thanks. I think everything went pretty smooth during these past 2 weeks. I know it's been very emotional for everybody. It shows how resilient our community is because everyone instantly got back and was like, who can I help? What can I move? Cut your trees. They're not home. I'm going to cut their trees anyways. You know what? I'm going to move your junk. You want junk? I got your junk moved. It's awesome to see this in this position as council because normally I'm that resident who's out there like, I'm going to move your junk because I'm moving everyone's junk. And seeing it as a whole, I think it's super awesome. Glad that not only I represented for the town, that I live in this town, so it's amazing. So thank you. Keep rocking. I think that's all I have.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to say is that I think the community looked out for everybody. They one of the things that, you know, I was not here. I evacuated. I was in Cary, couldn't get back. Some of the neighbors that got back showed videos of my house. Couldn't see the damage that actually was there, but at least the building was there. That made me feel better. I could see that it wasn't washed away and those kind of things. That was good. The other thing I feel like that I need to emphasize is that this was a serious storm. 37 people, last count I heard, died. We were lucky that it went north of us. I don't want people to feel complacent that, oh, the 4 came to me and I survived and it's fine, because the next, you could be on the right side of that and it'd be a whole different ball game. We just need to make sure that, you know, we take these storms seriously, because they seem to be getting worse. Nobody has ever had one quite like Florence. It stayed over us forever, dropped 28 inches in 24 hours. That's a lot. We're lucky on the island. My son-in-law works for Tetra Tech, the environmental engineering. He said, you know, you're on an island, so you've got ways where the water can get out and escape. But if we get hit by a 150-mile-per-hour wind, you can't escape that. And I think it could have gone the other way. It didn't. Hindsight's 20/20, obviously. But I just hope that the citizens will take it seriously and make the best judgment they can at the time. And I think that's what everybody did, whether they stayed or whether they left. But just felt like we need to say that. I don't want complacency to enter in, and we have statistics on our island. We don't want to lose anybody.
Thanks, Tom. 2 items, don't need any update on it right now. But in time, update on the progress of the public's pursuit of opening a food store.
I can give you a brief update.
Okay.
I think during the storm, the attorney that is representing Harris Teeter for the appeal did email to the other parties a proposed record on appeal. The deadline for responding to that is in the next coming weeks. I've taken a cursory glance at it and have communicated with the other attorney or other attorneys for the Publix and the other folks that are on the same side of the lawsuit as us in terms of the plaintiffs, defendants. And we are working on examining the proposed record and submitting our comments, and then the record will be tendered. So then there's the process of briefs being submitted and whatnot. So it has begun. The transcript has been received. That was a prerequisite in order to have the proposed record on appeal.
That's the legal battle going on between the two groups.
Yes.
Have we had any motion with Publix on the construction side? I know they
Yes.
contacted me during the storm, and I had sent them some pictures showing that they didn't get flooded out.
Yes, we have issued the demolition permit for the property. That was done just before the storm, so the last conversation I had with the Publix folks, which was sort of mid-storm, was that they are trying to finalize bids for the contractor to do the demolition and removal of the material. We've also already received the plan set for the full building permit, and we're currently reviewing that now. So from a construction standpoint, it's still moving forward.
Thanks, Michael. Noel, thanks. Last thing, Michael, an update on the bathroom renovations for the lake and I believe, boardwalk, those two. Just a rough timing on when we expect to complete that before we go and pursue ROT funding on the backside.
Honestly, Mayor, because of the storm, we didn't receive the shipment that we were supposed to. So I haven't checked into that recently, but I will, and I'll get you an answer.
Thanks.
We were including the Alabama bathrooms as well.
Yes, I believe we were. It's Alabama, Lake, and the boardwalk.
The one that wasn't was Hamlet because
That's
of other plans with
other
that
potential
property.
plans,
Okay,
yes, sir.
copy.
Good memory.
I got one last thing, and it's nothing personal. It's just that Tom, during these past 2 weeks, I would just say, as a council person as well as a resident, just a tad bit disappointed because you had no Facebook presence at all in regards to this storm. literally said nothing. And it kind of bothered me because you have a reach that some of us don't have. So when the mayor's not here, you're not here, some of us aren't here, you kind of look at all the pages, say, who's pushing this information out there, whether you're a local person or somebody who's in the position that we're in. So I just wanted to be known that to a degree I was a little bit disappointed that as the mayor pro tem, you did in no way address anything on Facebook so our residents knew that you were safe and that you gave them the information that they need.
If you look at my Facebook page, I did do some. I did have 2 grandkids I was running around with and doing stuff, but
I looked at it
I did
every
do
day. Every single day I looked at it.
Okay, I did do some. I didn't do as much as maybe y'all did, but I did the best.
All I'm saying is I think that as the mayor pro tem, in any circumstance of an event like this, whether you're within this community or you're out somewhere, that your responsibility is to at least step up and say, hey, here's information that I'm seeing and I'm reading, because you read everything that we read, at least push it out there to them.
What I did not do, because I wasn't here, I couldn't pass along any information I didn't have. I was not query up. I had everything I had, and I tried to do that. So I'm sorry if I disappointed you. I'll try to do better.
Okay, with that, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session to discuss a personnel matter in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143.318-11 Alpha 6. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And for this closed session, Noel and Kim, please come with